Welcome, dear listener. Tonight, as you settle into your chair or gently rest your head upon your pillow, I invite you to step into a softer rhythm of time. The world outside may still roar with noise, endless headlines, the hum of obligations, the heavy current of a life that often feels too fast, too crowded. But here, in this moment, there is only you and the quiet murmur of a voice guiding you home. Perhaps you have felt it recently, that sense of being pulled in too many directions, of carrying questions that have no easy answers. The economy shifts, families grow distant, technology rushes forward at dizzying speed, and somewhere in the middle of it all, your spirit whispers for rest. You are not alone in this. Across oceans and generations, countless souls have sought the same thing, a calm harbor within the storm. For thousands of years, stories have carried that calm. Simple fables, whispered around fires, shared in temples, passed down from teacher to student, parent to child. These stories are not just entertainment, they are medicine, guiding lights, small lanterns in the dark night of the human heart. Tonight, I will share them with you, not as lessons to memorize, but as companions to ease your breath, soften your thoughts, and remind you that serenity is always near. So let us begin, together. Let the outside world keep spinning. For the next few hours, you are safe here. You are held in the embrace of Zen's timeless wisdom. And as each story unfolds, you may find your own burdens gently loosening, your shoulders softening, your mind resting like a still pond beneath the moonlight. Part 1. The Storm Within. The night deepens. The hum of the day fades into the distance, like the echo of a train long departed. You are here now, in the stillness between one breath and the next, listening not only with your ears, but with something deeper inside you. The world outside may still feel restless, traffic lights changing, voices lingering in memory, tomorrow's list already tugging at the edges of thought. Yet here, in this space, you are invited to step gently away from all of it, as if slipping off a heavy coat after a long, weary journey. We live in times where storms are no longer only found in the skies above. They swirl within us. The news flickers with uncertainty. The economy trembles. Communities feel divided. And even in the quiet of our homes, invisible winds of worry shake our hearts. Have you felt it? That sense of spinning, as if life has become a wheel turning faster and faster, pulling you along until you can no longer catch your breath. This is the storm within. It does not shout with thunder or flash with lightning, but it unsettles us all the same. It steals sleep from our nights, joy from our mornings, and clarity from our days. We search for solutions, new routines, more information, stronger walls to protect us. But somehow, the storm continues to seep through the cracks. Ancient teachers knew this storm well, though their worlds lacked our endless screens and rapid pace. They saw how the human mind, left unchecked, spins its own tempests. They offered a different response, not through resistance, but through a kind of surrender, a gentle return to what is simple, clear, and eternal. They told stories. One such story begins not with a mighty king or a famous sage, but with a quiet man sitting on the edge of a village. His home was small, his garden humble, and his days filled with ordinary tasks. Yet within him brewed a storm as fierce as any hurricane. He worried about tomorrow's harvest, about the approval of his neighbors, about the weight of his aging body. Each thought was a gust of wind, each fear a clap of thunder. One morning, as the storm inside raged, he walked into the nearby hills. The sky was heavy with clouds, mirroring his inner weather. There, among the rocks and grasses, he found an old monk sitting silently beneath a pine tree. The man's eyes were closed, his breath steady, as if he were listening to something no one else could hear. The villager approached. "Master," he said, "how do you sit so calmly while storms gather above us? Don't you see the sky darkening? Don't you hear the winds rising?" The monk opened his eyes and smiled. "The storm you speak of lives not only in the sky, but in your mind. Sit here with me and listen." The villager hesitated, but he lowered himself onto the ground. They sat together as the wind rustled through the trees. At first, the man felt restless, his thoughts racing like horses unbridled. Yet slowly, he began to notice something else: the sound of the wind itself. Not frightening, not threatening, but simply moving through the branches. He felt his breath join that rhythm. In, out, like the wind flowing, like the clouds drifting. After some time, the monk spoke again. "Storms will come, both in the sky and in our lives. But the heart need not be shaken if it learns to rest like this tree, roots deep in the earth, branches swaying but never breaking." The villager carried those words back to his home. That night, as rain poured outside, he sat by the window. He noticed his mind trying to surge with worry, but he also remembered the pine tree, steady, unmoved. He breathed deeply, and for the first time in many years, the storm within began to soften. Dear listener, this story is not only his, it is ours. How often do we find ourselves consumed by clouds of thought, pulled into whirlwinds of fear? And yet, within us, there is also that pine tree waiting to be remembered. Strong, rooted, patient. You might be wondering, how do we bring this into our modern lives? The answer is simpler than it seems. Begin with the breath. Right now, as you listen, notice the air entering your body. Cool, gentle. Notice it leaving, warm, soft. Let your breath become your anchor. Like the villager, allow the storm of thought to swirl, but instead of fighting, simply sit beneath your own inner pine tree. Watch, listen, breathe. This is not about ignoring the world. The bills still need paying, the relationships still need tending, the future still unfolds with its mix of uncertainty and surprise. But when the storm within softens, we meet all these challenges differently. We respond instead of react. We pause instead of panic. We hold the calm of the pine tree even as the winds shake our branches. There is power in small moments of stillness. Imagine beginning your day not by rushing toward the noise of headlines or tasks, but by sitting quietly, even for 2 minutes, breathing, remembering your roots. Or imagine ending your day not with restless scrolling or anxious review, but by returning to that silent pine, letting your breath ease you toward sleep. These small choices are not insignificant. They are how we learn to calm the storm. And so, as this first part of our journey comes to a close, I invite you to rest in this thought. The storms will come, but you are not powerless. You carry within you a tree as ancient as the earth itself, steady and unbroken. You can return to it again and again whenever the winds rise. Let us carry this teaching forward, for in the next story we will meet another truth, that often the heaviest burdens we bear are the ones we cannot see. But tonight, before we move on, take one more breath with me. Slow, gentle, steady. The storm may remain outside, but within, you are already learning to be still. Part 2, The Unseen Burden. Last time, we sat together beneath the pine tree. We breathed with the storm, learning that even when the winds of life shake our branches, there is a strength within us that does not break. Tonight, let us go deeper. For if storms are often loud and obvious, there is another weight we carry that is more subtle, more hidden, and perhaps even heavier. It is the unseen burden. Have you felt it? The way a single worry lingers even after the crisis has passed. The way you lie awake staring at the ceiling, replaying conversations that ended hours ago. The way you prepare for tomorrow, already bracing for disappointments that have not yet arrived. This burden does not appear on your shoulders in the form of bricks or stones, but in thoughts, in anxieties, in memories that cling like shadows. In ancient Zen villages, people often carried water from streams or wells to their homes. Buckets hung from wooden poles across their shoulders, heavy, pressing down with every step. Everyone could see the effort, the strain. And yet, many of us today carry something far heavier, except it cannot be seen, not even by those closest to us. It is the constant weight of overthinking. There is a story told of two monks who traveled a dusty road on a hot summer day. Along the way, they came to a river. At its edge stood a woman, worried and frustrated, afraid to cross because her clothes would be ruined. She asked for help. The elder monk, without hesitation, lifted her onto his back and carried her safely across. The younger monk said nothing, but as they continued walking, his silence grew sharp. Hours later, unable to hold his frustration any longer, the young monk spoke. "Brother, we have taken vows to avoid unnecessary contact with women, and yet you carried her across the river. How could you?" The elder monk smiled gently. "I set her down at the river's edge. Why are you still carrying her?" The young monk's burden was unseen. No one else could feel the weight he held, but it pressed on him more heavily than the river's current ever could. And so it is with us. How often do we hold on to words spoken long ago, regrets from choices made decades back, fears about futures that may never arrive? We carry these unseen burdens from one moment to the next, as if our shoulders have forgotten how to set them down. Perhaps you, dear listener, know this feeling well. Maybe you carry memories of family conflicts that never found resolution. Perhaps you shoulder guilt for mistakes you made when you were younger, mistakes you would give anything to undo. Or perhaps it is worry about your children, about your health, about the world itself, that weighs upon you even as you smile politely to others. The truth is simple yet hard to accept. We are the ones who hold these burdens long past the moment they belong to. The world may have already moved on, but inside we keep carrying. What can we do? The Zen answer is both humble and profound. We learn to set the burden down again and again. This does not mean denying the past, nor pretending the future does not matter. It means meeting each thought as it arrives and gently asking, "Do I need to keep carrying this?" If the answer is no, then like the elder monk, we place it down beside the river. You may think this impossible. You may wonder, how do I simply let go of years of habit, years of carrying? Let us return to the breath. Right now, place a hand upon your chest. Feel the rise and fall. Each inhale gathers, each exhale releases. Breathing is our practice of carrying and setting down, over and over. The lungs hold for a moment, then let go. You too can practice this with the mind. Imagine for a moment that you are walking with a heavy sack across your shoulders. Inside the sack are stones, each representing a thought you've carried too long, a disappointment, a fear, a regret. Now, picture yourself stopping along the path. You open the sack. One by one, you take the stones out and lay them gently on the ground. The path behind you is lined with stones, but your steps forward are lighter. This visualization may seem simple, even childish, but it works, because the mind often needs images to learn what the heart already knows. You are allowed to set things down. An old American farmer once told his grandson a story at sunset. He said, "Each morning I rise with a pack on my back. Inside it are troubles I haven't yet faced. But if I remember, I can choose to open it and leave half of them on the porch. Most of the time, those troubles were never mine to carry anyway." The boy laughed, not yet understanding, but as the years passed, he learned the truth of it. Many of the worries we hold were never ours. They belong to other people's expectations, to yesterday's mistakes, or to tomorrow's storms that may never come. And you, listener, can ask yourself, whose burden am I carrying right now? Is it truly mine? Or am I holding the echoes of another's voice, the weight of another's demand? Setting burdens down is not a single act, but a practice. Each day offers us a chance to notice when we are carrying too much. Each night offers us the chance to release. Just as the elder monk did not cling to his action, but moved on with peace, so too can we. Tonight, as you prepare for rest, allow yourself to imagine your burdens stacked neatly beside you. Do not fight them. Do not curse them. Simply thank them for the lessons they tried to bring, and then let them rest outside your heart. You need not carry them into your dreams, for tomorrow will bring its own journey, its own challenges, its own opportunities to pick up and to put down. And if you can begin to practice this setting down, you may discover something unexpected. The world feels lighter, not because it has changed, but because you have. The unseen burden is never truly invisible. It shows in our tired eyes, our tense shoulders, our restless minds. But so too is the release visible, in the softness of a smile, the ease of a breath, the gentleness of sleep. As this part of our journey closes, remember, storms may rage, burdens may cling, but the way forward is always the same. Breathe, set it down, step gently onward. In our next story, we will learn from a humble teacup how even the smallest vessel can teach us to release what we no longer need and to make space for what heals. But for now, take one last deep breath. Feel the burden lifting, even just a little. That is enough. You are enough. And in this quiet moment, the unseen becomes light. Part 3. The Empty Teacup. In our last time together, we walked the dusty road with two monks. We saw how one carried a woman across a river, and how the other carried the burden of judgment long after. We learned that many of the heaviest weights are invisible, resting not on our backs but in our minds, waiting for us to set them down. But tonight, we turn to another lesson, one that often goes unnoticed in the busyness of life. If you have ever felt overwhelmed by information, if your thoughts are crowded with voices from the television, the radio, the endless stream of headlines glowing on a phone screen, then this story is for you. It is the story of an empty teacup. It is said that many years ago, a university professor traveled to visit a Zen master. The professor was well known in his city, a man of intellect and respect who had studied philosophy, psychology, and theology. His mind was full of ideas, theories, and opinions, and he had come to challenge the old monk with questions. The master welcomed him with kindness. They sat together in a small wooden room where the smell of pine hung in the air and light filtered softly through paper windows. Between them, the master placed a teapot and 2 cups. As the professor began to speak about his studies, his conclusions, his beliefs, the master quietly poured tea into the visitor's cup. He poured and poured until the tea rose to the brim, then spilled over, dripping onto the table and pooling on the floor. "Stop!" cried the professor. "The cup is full. No more will go in." The master smiled gently. "Like this cup, you are full of your own opinions. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" The professor sat in stunned silence. For the first time in years, he had no words. Dear listener, this story is not only about a teacup. It is about us, about the way we live today. Our lives are overflowing, not only with objects and possessions, but with thoughts, with noise, with worries we collect from every direction. We fill our minds from morning to night. The news that unsettles us, the opinions of friends that stir us, the memories that replay, the plans that multiply. We hold it all tightly until there is no space left to receive anything new. And yet, what is the wisdom of the teacup? It is not the tea that defines it, but the space it holds. An empty cup is not a failure. It is readiness. It is possibility. It is the place where nourishment can arrive. Perhaps you have noticed this in your own days. When your schedule is so crowded that you cannot pause to breathe, joy has no space to visit. When your heart is cluttered with resentment, forgiveness cannot find a place to land. When your mind is so filled with thoughts, silence cannot enter. We live in a culture that praises fullness, full calendars, full closets, full shelves. But often, fullness becomes heaviness, and heaviness, as we learned before, is its own kind of burden. What if, instead, we chose emptiness? Not as a loss, but as a gift. Think of a quiet Sunday morning when the house is still and the world seems to wait. In that emptiness, peace arrives. Or think of a meadow after snow, wide and open, where each step feels new. In that emptiness, beauty arrives. The empty teacup is an invitation to release, to let go, to make room. How do we practice this in our daily lives? Perhaps it begins with something as simple as pausing before we add more. Before we say yes to another obligation, we ask, will this fill my cup to overflowing, or will it leave space for what matters most? Before we carry another worry into the night, we ask, do I truly need to keep this, or can I let it spill away like tea from the brim? I once knew an older woman who kept a drawer in her kitchen that she called her empty drawer. It held nothing at all, and she never let anything accumulate there. When asked why, she said, "I need one place in my home that is always ready. When I open it, I am reminded that emptiness is not waste, it is freedom." What would it mean for you, listener, to keep an empty drawer in your life? Perhaps not in wood and metal, but in your heart, your mind, your time. A place when nothing is stored, so that when life offers you a moment of joy, gratitude, or love, you have room to hold it. The professor in our story came to the Zen master thinking he already knew. He wanted to add more to his full cup, never realizing that wisdom does not come by adding, but by clearing away. The same is true for us. Peace is not something we pile on top of stress, like another layer of books on a crowded shelf. Peace comes when we make space, when we empty ourselves enough to receive it. As you listen tonight, I invite you to imagine your own teacup. Picture it in your hands, cool porcelain, delicate rim. See how full it has become with all the things you carry. Then, with a gentle breath, tip the cup slightly, letting the excess spill away. Imagine watching the liquid drain until the cup is empty once more. Notice how light it feels. Notice how open. This is not only imagination, it is practice. And the more often you empty your cup, the more ready you will be for the gifts that life longs to pour into you: stillness, clarity, joy. As this part draws to a close, let us return again to the rhythm of the breath. Inhale as though filling your cup just slightly. Exhale as though emptying it completely. Inhale, fullness. Exhale, emptiness. Both are part of the same cycle. Both are needed. And so, dear listener, as you drift toward rest, remember, you do not need to hold it all. Your mind does not need to be crowded. Your heart does not need to be heavy. The empty teacup waits within you, ready to hold whatever is most precious, whenever you are willing to make space. In our next part, we will turn to another story, The Bamboo in the Wind. Here, we will see how resilience is not hardness, but flexibility. For now, rest in the emptiness, and let it cradle you like a quiet room at dusk. Part 4. The Bamboo in the Wind. In our last gathering, we sat with the professor and the Zen master, watching the tea spill over the brim of a cup. We were reminded that sometimes wisdom does not come from adding, but from emptying, making space for what is truly needed. Tonight, we continue this journey by turning to another lesson from nature, one that whispers softly in the wind and bends gracefully before storms. It is the lesson of bamboo. Close your eyes for a moment and picture it, a grove of bamboo swaying beneath a restless sky. The wind gathers strength, pushing hard against the slender stalks. Yet they do not break. They bend, they bow, they yield, and when the storm passes, they rise again, tall, unbroken, alive. This is resilience. Not the stiff strength of stone, but the supple strength of bamboo. There is a story told of a young monk who once asked his teacher, "Master, how can I endure the storms of life? How can I remain strong when so much seems uncertain and beyond my control?" The teacher led him outside, where the wind danced through the monastery's garden. Pointing to the bamboo, the teacher said, "Do you see? The pine stands firm and tall, but when the winds grow fierce, its branches may snap. The bamboo bends, and so it survives. Do not strive to be rigid like the pine. Be like the bamboo, flexible, rooted, enduring." The young monk watched as gusts of wind passed over the grove. He saw how the stalks swayed in unison, not resisting, but moving with the air. In that moment, he understood. Survival is not always about fighting back. Sometimes it is about learning how to bend. Dear listener, perhaps you know the feeling of being struck by life's winds. An illness that arrives without warning. A job lost after years of loyalty. A relationship strained by words that cannot be unsaid. In such moments, we may feel the urge to stiffen, to resist, to stand unyielding. Yet often it is this very rigidity that causes us to snap. Think of the times you have clenched your jaw, tightened your fists, insisting that life should have unfolded differently. Did the storm pass more quickly because of your resistance, or did it leave you more exhausted, more wounded than before? Now imagine instead a softer approach, yielding, not from weakness, but from wisdom. To bow with the wind, to acknowledge, yes, this is happening. Yes, I cannot control every gust, every change. This surrender is not defeat. It is survival. It is resilience born not of hardness, but of flexibility. An old American farmer once said to me, "I learned from the crops I grew." Wheat that stood too tall, too stiff, often broke in the storm. but the stalks that bent with the wind always gave me a harvest. His words echo the same truth as the Zen masters. Life will always bring storms. What matters is how we meet them. So, how can we practice being like bamboo in our daily lives? Perhaps it begins with noticing the small places where rigidity creeps in. When a loved one speaks in a way that irritates us, do we harden immediately, snapping in response? Or can we bend, listening with patience, allowing the words to pass like wind through leaves? When plans collapse, flights canceled, events delayed, goals unmet, do we insist on control, or can we yield, trusting that another path may appear? Flexibility does not mean passivity. Bamboo is not weak. Its fibers are strong, its roots deep. To be like bamboo is to be both grounded and adaptable. It is to know who you are at the core while allowing the surface to move with life's changes. Take a moment now to reflect. Where in your life are you standing too rigidly, insisting on control? Where might you allow yourself to bend? Close your eyes and breathe into those places. On the inhale, feel the strength of your roots anchoring you to the earth. On the exhale, imagine your body swaying gently, like bamboo in the breeze. This simple practice can become a reminder in the midst of any storm. You are both strong and flexible, both rooted and free. I recall once meeting a woman who had endured many trials. She had lost her husband to illness, seen her children move far away, and lived through years of financial strain. Yet, when I asked her how she managed to remain calm, she said, "I learned to bend. Life took things from me I never wanted to lose, but instead of breaking, I leaned with it, and somehow I kept growing." Her words linger with me, for they embody the essence of bamboo, grief and grace held together in one slender stalk. In our culture, we often praise those who stand firm, who fight unyieldingly against every challenge. And there is value in courage, in persistence, but there is also wisdom in knowing when to bow. The bamboo does not lose itself in the wind. It does not vanish or collapse. It simply moves and then rises again. Can we learn to do the same? Tonight, as you prepare for rest, imagine yourself walking through a bamboo grove. Hear the rustle of leaves, the soft creak of stalks swaying together. Feel the wind around you and notice how it passes, not staying, not destroying, only moving through. You too can let the winds pass. You too can bend and not break. As this part of our journey closes, let us carry this truth. Resilience is not about resisting every storm. It is about trusting our roots, yielding with grace, and rising again when the winds have gone. In our next story, we will follow a fisherman casting his net, teaching us how to live fully in the present rather than being consumed by what has not yet come. But for now, rest like bamboo, anchored, flexible, alive. Let the winds of worry blow past. They cannot uproot the stillness that lives within you. Part 5. The Fisherman's Net. Last night, we swayed with the bamboo, learning that true resilience comes not from rigidity, but from a quiet flexibility, rooted and alive, bending with the winds and rising again. Tonight, we travel further toward the water's edge, where another teacher waits, not in a temple or a grove, but on the shore of a wide river. He is a fisherman, and his lesson arrives not in words, but in the net he casts. Picture it now, the hush of dawn, the faint shimmer of sunlight spreading across the surface of the water. The world has not yet awakened. Mist curls along the riverbank, and the air is cool, carrying the scent of wet earth. The fisherman rises from his small hut, shoulders broad from years of labor, his hands rough, his gaze steady. He walks to the edge of the water, carrying a net he has mended countless times. With practiced ease, he casts the net into the river. The rope arcs gracefully, landing with a soft splash. He waits, patient, silent. When he draws the net back, sometimes it is heavy with fish, shimmering and alive. Sometimes it is nearly empty, carrying only weeds and stones. Yet the fisherman does not curse, nor does he despair. Each day he simply casts again. One morning, a young villager approached him. The boy was anxious, shifting from foot to foot. "Sir," he said, "how do you not worry? What if tomorrow the river gives you nothing? What if next week your net comes back empty? How will you live then?" The fisherman looked at the boy with kind eyes. "My net is for this cast, not for tomorrow's," he replied. "If I worry about tomorrow's catch, I miss the fish swimming before me today." The river is wide. It will provide in its time. My work is only to cast, here and now. The boy frowned, not fully satisfied, but he remembered the words. Years later, when life's storms brought him troubles, he recalled the fisherman's wisdom. The net belongs to this moment. Dear listener, how often do we cast our nets not into the present, but into tomorrow? How often do we live in fear of the empty net to come? We think of bills due next month, health that may fail in years ahead, relationships that might fracture, futures that may disappoint. In our worry, we forget the fish swimming right now, the breath in our lungs, the sunlight at our window, the laughter of a loved one at the dinner table. This is the lesson of the fisherman's net. Life is lived not in what may be, but in what is. Perhaps you recognize this in your own life. Have you ever spent so much time preparing for a conversation that when the moment arrived, you were too distracted to truly hear? Have you rehearsed tomorrow's troubles so thoroughly that you missed today's joys? It is like trying to fill your basket with fruit from a tree that has not yet blossomed. All the while, ripe fruit lies at your feet, waiting to be gathered. The mind is skilled at wandering forward. It tells us, if I do not think of tomorrow, I will not be ready. But preparation and preoccupation are not the same. Preparation is wise. Preoccupation is heavy. The fisherman prepares his net. He mends it, he cleans it, he sharpens his tools. But once he casts, he releases expectation. He allows the river to give what it gives. So, how do we practice this in our modern lives? Begin with noticing when your mind leaps ahead. Tonight, perhaps, as you lie in bed, you will hear tomorrow whispering. What if the meeting goes badly? What if the doctor brings bad news? What if I fail? What if I lose? When you hear these voices, pause. Ask yourself, is this fish in my net right now, or am I reaching into a river that does not yet exist? Then return to what is here, the softness of your pillow, the steady rhythm of your breath, the gift of being alive in this very second. This is your catch. This is enough. I once spoke with an older man who had worked decades in a busy factory. He confessed that most of his life he worried about what would happen if the factory closed, if his savings failed, if his family turned away. I spent years chasing shadows, he said. But the day I retired, I realized the factory had given me enough. It had given me friendships, a livelihood, and time. All those years I worried, I might have lived lighter if I had remembered. The net belongs to this cast. And so, dear listener, I ask you, what is in your net tonight? Not what you fear may come, not what you hope may arrive, but what is truly here. Maybe it is the warmth of a lamp glowing in your room. Maybe it is the memory of someone you love. Maybe it is simply the sound of your own breath reminding you that life flows still, like a river beneath the sky. Let us try a small practice together. Close your eyes if you wish. Imagine standing at the edge of a river. In your hands is a net, light and strong. You cast it into the water, not into tomorrow, not into next week, but into this very moment. As you draw it back, see what it holds. Perhaps gratitude, perhaps peace, perhaps nothing more than the stillness of the present. Whatever it is enough. Breathe it in. Hold it gently. Then cast again. Life, like the river, is endless. Some days bring abundance, others bring emptiness. But the meaning lies not in the catch, it lies in the casting, in the being, in the trust that the river continues. As this part of our journey closes, remember the fisherman's words. My net is for this cast, not for tomorrow's. Let these words be your lullaby tonight, easing you into rest. For tomorrow will come in its own time, and you will meet it when it arrives. Until then, let the river flow. Let the net rest in your hands. Let the present be enough. In our next story, we will walk a mountain path where a young traveler discovers that the climb itself, with all its stones and struggles, holds more wisdom than the peak he seeks. But tonight, may your dreams be light, your net empty of worry, your heart full of peace. Part 6. The Mountain Path. In our last time together, we stood at the edge of the river with the fisherman. We learned that the net belongs to this cast, not to tomorrow's. We were reminded that life's meaning is found not in the catch alone, but in the simple act of casting, in trusting the flow of the river. Tonight, we leave the riverbank and begin to climb. Before us rises a mountain path, winding, steep, covered in stones and roots. It is here that another story unfolds, one that speaks not of rivers or nets, but of journeys and destinations, and of how often we mistake one for the other. Long ago, a young man set out to visit a great master who lived at the top of a mountain. He had heard that the master held secrets of peace, wisdom, and freedom from suffering. With excitement burning in his chest, the young man packed his bag with food and water, then began the climb. The path was rough. Sunlight filtered through tall pines, casting shifting shadows. The earth was uneven, and the air grew thinner with each step. As he climbed, the young man thought only of the summit. When I reach the master, then I will find peace. When I stand at the top, then I will be whole. But the journey was long, and soon his legs ached, his shoulders strained beneath the weight of his pack, and his spirit began to dim. Why must the road be so hard? He muttered. Why so many obstacles between me and the peace I seek? At last, after hours of struggle, he reached the summit. There, beneath an ancient tree, sat the master, calm, serene, as if the mountain itself had taken human form. The young man bowed deeply. "Master," he said, "I have climbed so far to find you. Please teach me the secret of peace." The master opened his eyes, looked at the weary traveler, and asked gently, "What did you notice along the way?" The young man blinked, confused. "I noticed only the pain in my legs, the weight on my shoulders, the longing for this moment when I could finally learn." The master smiled softly. "Then you missed the teaching. The path itself was your master. Each step was the lesson. To find peace, you must learn not only to long for the summit, but to walk the path as though it, too, were enough. Dear listener, how often do we live like the young traveler? We imagine peace waiting for us in some far-off place. at retirement, at a certain number in the bank account, at the moment our health improves, at the time our children finally understand us. We climb and we climb, focused so entirely on the summit that we miss the whispers of wisdom along the way. The truth is this: life is not lived only at the peaks. Life is lived in the steps, in the small moments. The way the morning light falls across the kitchen table, the way a kind word softens the heaviness of a day, the way your own breath steadies you when you pause to notice it. If we are always waiting for the summit, we may never realize that the path itself has already been teaching us what we seek. An old American hiker once told me, "Every time I thought I'd found the trail's reward at the top, I realized the real gift had been the streams I crossed, the birds I heard, the people I met along the way." His words echo the master's lesson. Peace is not a single point. It is the rhythm of walking, the noticing, the presence in each step. So how do we practice this in our daily lives? Perhaps it begins with slowing down. When you walk across your living room, do you rush as if to reach the summit of a mountain? Or can you feel the ground beneath your feet, the way each step carries you steadily onward? When you drink your morning coffee, do you gulp it down while your mind races ahead? Or do you taste it, truly taste it, as if it were the only cup in the world? This is the mountain path. Ordinary moments, extraordinary when we meet them fully. I once knew a woman who spent her whole life waiting for the right time to rest, to savor, to live. She worked tirelessly, raised her family, paid her debts. She said to herself, "When everything is settled, then I will breathe. Then I will enjoy." But when the time finally came, her body was weary, and she realized she had missed countless small summits along the way. "If I had walked differently," she said, "I might have lived differently." Her story is a gentle reminder to us all. Peace is not waiting at the end. It is here, scattered like wildflowers along the path. All we need is to notice. Tonight, as you listen, I invite you to take a journey within. Imagine yourself on a mountain path. The air is cool, crisp. The earth is solid beneath your feet. You take a step, feel it fully. Another step, notice the rhythm. Around you, birds call softly. A breeze stirs the leaves. You are not rushing, not straining for the peak. You are simply walking. And in this walking, peace is already here. Perhaps you have goals, dear listener. Perhaps there are summits you long to reach: health, reconciliation, security, meaning. Do not abandon them. They are part of your journey. But do not let them blind you to the beauty of the climb itself. Each breath, each moment, each step is a chance to live fully, not just to arrive. As this part draws to a close, remember the Master's words. The path itself was your teacher. Let this truth guide you not only up mountains, but through hallways, kitchens, gardens, and quiet nights. For the journey is not separate from the destination. They are one, unfolding together. In our next story, we will listen for something stranger: the sound of one hand. A question that cannot be answered by logic, but that opens the door to silence, to mystery, and to the kind of wisdom that waits beyond words. But for tonight, rest upon the mountain path. Let each breath be a step. Let each step be enough. And know that you are already walking toward peace, here and now. Part 7. The Sound of One Hand. Last night, we walked the mountain path. We discovered that the climb itself is the teaching, that peace is not only at the summit, but scattered like wildflowers along the way. Tonight, we enter a different kind of journey, not on foot, but within the mind itself. Here, we meet a question so strange, so unanswerable, that it unsettles us, and yet, in the unsettling, It sets us free. It is the sound of one hand. Long ago, a student came to a Zen master seeking wisdom. The student was eager, intelligent, and determined to find enlightenment. He had studied scriptures, memorized teachings, debated philosophy, and yet something inside him remained restless. He wanted an answer that would quiet his soul once and for all. The master listened patiently, then gave the student a question. You have heard the sound of two hands clapping, but what is the sound of one hand? The student blinked. Surely the master was joking. That is impossible, he thought. A hand alone cannot clap. But the master offered no explanation, only silence. The student returned to his room, puzzled. He tried everything he could imagine, waving his hand through the air, pressing it against his ear, snapping his fingers. But still the question gnawed at him. What is the sound of one hand? Days turned to weeks, weeks to months. At first, frustration burned. Then, slowly, something shifted. The student realized the master's question was not a puzzle to be solved by logic. It was a doorway, leading him beyond words, beyond reasoning, into silence itself. Dear listener, perhaps you too know the feeling of questions without answers. Why did this illness come to me? Why did I lose the one I loved so soon? Why is life sometimes so cruel, so unfair? These are not questions of logic. They are questions of the heart. And like the sound of one hand, they cannot always be answered in ways that satisfy the mind. But here lies the hidden gift. When we stop trying to force an answer, we sometimes discover a deeper peace, the peace of sitting with the question itself. In the story, the student eventually stopped struggling. He simply sat, breathing, holding the question without trying to solve it. And in that quiet acceptance, he found what he had been searching for all along: stillness, clarity, a freedom beyond words. The sound of one hand was not something to hear with the ears, but something to feel with the soul. In our modern lives, we are taught to seek answers everywhere. The internet promises solutions, experts give advice, books fill our shelves. But not every question can or should be answered. Sometimes the wisest thing we can do is sit with the silence, with the mystery, and let it soften us. Think of the times in your life when you tried desperately to explain or control what was happening. Did the explanations bring peace? Or did peace arrive only when you stopped asking why and instead began to breathe, to accept, to trust? An old American teacher once told his class, "The greatest wisdom is learning to live with unanswered questions." His students frowned, wanting certainty, but he continued, "Certainty is fragile. It breaks when life does not fit its shape. But if you can live with mystery, then nothing can break you, because you no longer need the world to be simple." So, how can we practice this? Perhaps begin with a single question that troubles you. Instead of demanding an answer, hold it gently, like a pebble in your palm. Feel its weight, its presence, without rushing to explain it. Notice how it changes over time. Sometimes the pebble will grow lighter. Sometimes it will simply remind you that not knowing is also a way of being alive. Tonight, as you prepare to rest, imagine yourself sitting in a quiet temple. A single candle flickers before you. In your hands, you hold a question, one that has followed you for years. Do not force it. Do not demand resolution. Simply hold it, breathe with it, and let the silence be your answer. This is the sound of one hand. Not noise, not logic, but the vast quiet that opens when we stop fighting the unanswerable. Perhaps you are still wondering, but what does it really mean? What is the trick? The truth is, there is no trick. The sound of one hand is simply this: an invitation to let go of the endless need for answers and to rest instead in the mystery of being. Dear listener, as you drift toward sleep, let the unanswerable be your companion. Let it soothe you, reminding you that you need not solve everything tonight, or ever. There is peace in not knowing. There is comfort in the silence between thoughts. There is freedom in realizing that life itself, in all its beauty and pain, is already complete, even without an answer. As this part of our journey closes, take a deep breath. Feel the question in your heart, whatever it may be. Then let it rest, like a hand raised gently in the air, silent, still, and yet full of meaning. In our next story, we will meet a broken pot, an object flawed and imperfect, yet carrying a hidden beauty and purpose that no perfection could offer. But for tonight, let the sound of one hand guide you into silence, into sleep, into peace. Part 8: The Broken Pot. In our last time together, we sat with the unanswerable question, the sound of one hand. We discovered that not every mystery must be solved, that sometimes peace comes not in the answer, but in the quiet surrender to silence. Tonight, we turn our attention to something more ordinary, yet just as profound: a pot, simple and broken, teaching us that imperfection itself can carry beauty. Imagine, if you will, a small village in the hills. The air is warm, the fields golden beneath the sun. Each day, a woman walks down to the river with a wooden pole across her shoulders. At each end of the pole hangs a clay pot. One pot is whole and perfect, carrying water without spill. The other has a crack along its side, and though the woman fills it to the brim, by the time she returns to her home, half the water has leaked away. For years, the cracked pot lived in shame. "I am useless," it whispered. "I fail in my duty. My flaw makes me less than the other." The perfect pot stood tall, proud of its strength, its reliability. The broken one drooped, heavy with regret. One morning, the cracked pot spoke to the woman. "I am ashamed," it said. "I am flawed. I lose water each day, and you receive less because of me. Please forgive me for my weakness." The woman smiled gently. "Have you not noticed the flowers along your side of the path?" she asked. "I planted seeds there long ago, knowing that your crack would water them each day. Now I gather beauty with every step because of you. You see only what you lose. I see the life you give." Dear listener, perhaps you know this feeling. Perhaps you too have looked at your life and seen only the cracks, the times you failed, the ways you fell short, the scars you carry. We live in a culture that praises perfection, youth, unbrokenness. Advertisements whisper that we must fix, improve, erase. Yet Zen teaches us a different truth. The crack is not the end of usefulness. It may be the very source of beauty. Consider your own journey. How many of your deepest acts of compassion came not from your strengths, but from your struggles? How often have your scars allowed you to understand another's pain? The very places where you believe yourself broken may be the places where life pours through you most freely. An old American craftsman once told me about the Japanese art of kintsugi, repairing broken pottery with veins of gold. "The crack is not hidden," he said, "it is honored. The repair does not erase the story, it celebrates it." He showed me a bowl with golden lines tracing its fractures, and it was more beautiful than any flawless piece could have been. "It is strong not despite the break," he said, "but because of it." So it is with us. Our cracks do not erase our worth. They shape our story, glimmering with the light of resilience and love. Think of the times you have stumbled. Perhaps you failed at work, and yet, in the humility of that moment, you discovered kindness from a colleague. Perhaps illness weakened your body, and yet, in that weakness, you learned patience, gratitude, tenderness. Perhaps grief broke your heart, and yet, in that breaking, you found a depth of empathy that allowed you to comfort another. These are the flowers along your path, watered by the very cracks you once despised. Tonight, I invite you to reflect on your own broken pot. Where do you see the cracks in your life? Perhaps in your health, your relationships, your past choices. Instead of hiding them, can you see what they have given? Can you notice the flowers blooming along the way? Close your eyes if you wish, and imagine carrying two pots on your shoulders, one perfect, one cracked. Walk the path slowly. See how the cracked pot drips water onto the earth. As you walk day after day, flowers begin to sprout. Wild daisies, soft grass, bright blossoms. By the time you arrive at your home, you may notice the truth. Your cracks have been creating beauty all along. This does not mean we must glorify pain or seek to be broken. It means we can stop punishing ourselves for being human. We can see our scars as part of our wholeness, our cracks as part of our contribution. I once knew a woman who spoke of her struggles with addiction. For years, she despised herself for her weakness, her failure to remain whole. But in her recovery, she began to mentor others, to sit with those still in darkness. I would never have understood their pain, she told me, if I had not walked that road myself. My crack has become my gift. Her story, like the cracked pots, reminds us that what we lose is not the whole story. Sometimes what leaks away nourishes something unseen, until one day we notice the blossoms. Dear listener, as you prepare for rest tonight, let go of the illusion of perfection. You do not need to be flawless to be worthy. You do not need to erase your scars to be beautiful. You are already like the pot along the path, flawed, yes, but also a vessel of hidden gifts. Take a deep breath and imagine your cracks filled with gold, shining softly in the candlelight of your heart. Imagine the flowers blooming behind you, gifts you never intended, beauty you never saw until now. Rest in the knowing that you are enough, not despite your cracks, but with them. As this part of our journey closes, let us carry this truth. The broken pot waters the flowers. The imperfect life carries hidden perfection. And you, with all your flaws and scars, are already a source of beauty in ways you may never fully see. In our next story, we will light a candle in the darkness. We will learn how even the smallest flame can soften the heaviest night. But for tonight, may you rest with your cracks shining like gold, your flowers blooming quietly along the path, your heart at peace. Part 9. The Candle in the Dark. In our last time together, we walked with the woman carrying her pots, one whole, one cracked. We discovered that even our flaws may bring forth unexpected beauty, that our cracks water the flowers we cannot always see. Tonight, we step into a darker place, for life is not only sunshine and blossoms. There are nights when shadows seem to gather, when the path is unclear, when hope feels faint. And yet, in those very moments, a small candle can change everything. Imagine a room shrouded in darkness. The shutters are closed, the air heavy, the silence pressing in from every side. You sit there, unable to see your own hands, surrounded by the unknown. Fear grows, not because of what is present, but because of what you cannot see. And then someone lights a candle. One small flame, trembling at first, but steady. Suddenly, the room changes. The darkness does not vanish, but it softens. Shadows retreat. What was once frightening becomes bearable. The flame does not remove the night. It teaches you that the night is not absolute. There is an old Zen tale of a traveler who lost his way in the forest. The moon was hidden by clouds, and the path before him disappeared into blackness. Panic rose within him. He stumbled, fell, bruised his knees. Just when despair threatened to overwhelm him, he noticed a faint glow. Another traveler approached, holding a small lantern. With that gentle light, the path appeared. Not fully, but enough to take one step and then another. The traveler asked, "How can I reach the end of the forest with so little light?" The one with the lantern replied, "You don't need to see the whole path. You only need enough to take the next step." Dear listener, how often do we feel lost in our own dark forests, unsure of the future, weighed down by grief, overwhelmed by uncertainty? We long for the sun to rise, for clarity to come, for certainty to light the way. Yet life rarely grants us the whole map. Instead, it gives us candles, small moments of comfort, simple acts of kindness, quiet breaths that carry us forward one step at a time. Perhaps you know this darkness well. Maybe you have faced nights when anxiety pressed against your chest, or mornings when grief felt heavier than your body could carry. In such moments, we tend to ask, when will the light return? When will I be free of this night? But the candle reminds us, you do not need all the light at once. A small flame is enough to keep going. I once met a man who had lost his wife after 50 years of marriage. His grief was immense, the house suddenly empty, his days long and hollow. I thought I would never smile again, he told me. The nights were unbearable. But then a neighbor began visiting each evening, bringing him tea and sitting in silence. She could not bring back the sun, he said, but she gave me a candle, and with that little light I found my way through the night. The candle does not deny the darkness. It does not erase loss, nor guarantee certainty. But it whispers, you are not alone. You can take one more step. So, how do we find these candles in our own lives? Sometimes they appear in unexpected places. The laughter of a child, the memory of a kindness long ago, the warmth of a pet resting by your side. Sometimes we must create them ourselves, lighting an actual candle, pausing to breathe, speaking a gentle word to ourselves. And sometimes we are the candle for another, offering a smile, a hand, a moment of presence that eases their night. Close your eyes for a moment if you wish. Imagine yourself in a dark room. Around you, uncertainty looms. But in your hands, you hold a candle. Feel its warmth against your fingers. See the small flame dancing. Notice how it pushes back the shadows, not by force, but by being. You take a step, and then another. The darkness is still there, but it no longer has power over you. The candle is enough. This too is Zen. To understand that we need not wait for the whole world to brighten before we can move. We need only the courage to trust the small light we have. An old American preacher once said, "It is better to light a candle than to curse the darkness." His words echo across cultures and generations. Complaining about the night does not make it shorter. Lighting even a single flame changes everything. Dear listener, as you prepare for rest tonight, let yourself be the traveler with the lantern. You do not need to know how tomorrow will unfold. You do not need to see the end of the path. All you need is one candle, the soft glow of presence, the warmth of breath, the quiet assurance that the night is not endless. Take a deep inhale now, as though drawing the flame into your chest. Feel it glowing inside you, steady and calm. With each exhale, imagine the darkness around you softening, retreating, making space for peace. You are safe, you are guided, you are enough. As this part of our journey closes, remember, the candle in the dark does not banish the night, but it transforms it. And with each small light, each act of kindness, each mindful breath, the path becomes clear enough for another step. In our next story, we will follow the way of the river, learning how water teaches us to flow, to yield, and yet to endure. But for tonight, let the candle glow within you, gentle and steady, guiding you into dreams where even the darkest night holds hidden stars. Part 10. The River's Way. In our last time together, we lit a candle in the dark. We saw how even the smallest flame could soften the vastness of night, how one gentle glow can guide us forward without banishing the shadows. Tonight, we leave the quiet room and step into the open air, where another teacher awaits, not in words, not in books, but in the ceaseless flow of water. Tonight, we follow the river. Imagine standing on its bank at dawn. Mist drifts above the surface, catching the first rays of light. The water moves steadily, rippling, bending around stones, carrying leaves and twigs along its current. It does not resist, it does not argue, it simply flows, always forward, always toward the sea. There is a story told of a young monk who once sat beside a river, frustrated with his life. "Why must everything be so difficult?" he asked his master. "People misunderstand me. Obstacles block my way. I try to control everything, but nothing stays as I wish." The master pointed to the river. "Do you see how it moves? When it meets a rock, it does not try to break it. It flows around. When a branch falls, it carries it for a while, then releases it. And yet, no matter what happens, the river reaches the ocean. Learn from the river. Do not fight the obstacles. Flow with them, and you will find your way." The monk sat silently, listening to the sound of water rushing over stones. For the first time, he felt something loosen within him. Dear listener, perhaps you know what it feels like to fight the rocks in your own life, to push against illness, aging, loss, or uncertainty, wishing it all away. But like the river, life carries obstacles into our path. We can exhaust ourselves by resisting, or we can learn to move with the current, to flow around what we cannot move, to carry only what we must. Think of your own life as a river. What are the rocks standing in your way? A health concern? A financial burden? A conflict in your family? Notice how your mind often insists this should not be here. But the rock is there, whether you want it or not. The river does not deny the rock. It accepts and finds a way to move forward anyway. An old American farmer once told me, "When the flood came, I thought my fields were ruined, but the river carved new channels, and months later, the soil was richer than before." His words hold a quiet truth. What seems like destruction may, in time, nourish us. The river knows this. It trusts its way. How do we practice the river's way in daily life? Begin by noticing where you resist most. Perhaps in conversations where you cling to being right, unable to bend. Perhaps in your health, where you struggle to accept changes age has brought. Perhaps in your heart, where you replay regrets, wishing the past had flowed differently. Instead of tightening, try softening. Take a breath and imagine yourself as water. When harsh words come, let them ripple through you instead of lodging like stones. When plans fail, allow yourself to bend, to find another channel. When fear rises, carry it for a time, then gently release it downstream. Close your eyes now, if you wish. Picture yourself lying back in a river, the current supporting you. At first, you may feel afraid, wanting to control, to grab hold of the bank. But if you trust the water, you find it carries you steadily, gently onward. You do not need to swim against it. You do not need to know exactly where it leads. The river knows. And in surrender, you discover peace. This is not weakness. The river is soft, yet it carves canyons. It is gentle, yet it shapes the earth itself. To flow like water is not to give up, but to find strength in yielding. I once knew a woman who carried deep grief after losing her son. For years she resisted it, building walls around her heart, trying to dam the river of sorrow. But the pain only pressed harder, demanding release. One day she sat by a stream and realized she could not stop the flow. She wept openly, letting the water inside her join the water before her. "I thought I would drown," she said later, "but instead I learned to float. The grief is still here, but now it moves. It carries me instead of crushing me." Her story, like the Master's teaching, reminds us that flow is not forgetting. It is learning to move with what is, instead of against it. Tonight, dear listener, as you prepare for rest, consider what currents you have been resisting. Where are you stiff, rigid, afraid to move? What would it feel like to soften, to trust the flow, to let life carry you a little instead of fighting each wave? Take a deep breath now. Inhale as though you are drawing in the fresh current of the river. Exhale as though you are releasing your resistance, letting it drift away like leaves on the surface. Inhale, flow in. Exhale, struggle out. Repeat this until your body feels lighter, your mind calmer. As this part of our journey closes, remember, the river always finds its way, not by force, but by flow. You too can trust that your life is moving forward, even when rocks appear, even when bends obscure the horizon. In our next story, we will meet a farmer whose fortunes seem to rise and fall with every change, teaching us that luck itself is not what it seems. But for tonight, may you rest like the river, soft, flowing, unafraid of the rocks. Let life carry you gently into dreams, toward the vast ocean of peace. Part 11. The Farmer's Luck. Last night, we sat by the river and learned its way, to flow, to yield, to trust the current even when stones and bends obscure the horizon. Tonight, we walk into the fields of a farmer, where another lesson awaits. A lesson about fortune and misfortune, and how quickly the two can change places. It is one of the oldest Zen tales, simple yet profound. And though it comes from another time, another land, its wisdom feels just as urgent today, in a world where we are quick to label events as good or bad, lucky or unlucky. In a quiet village, there lived a farmer who owned a single horse. One day, the horse broke through the gate and ran away into the hills. The neighbors gathered and shook their heads. "How unfortunate," they said. "What bad luck." The farmer only replied, "Maybe yes, maybe no. We'll see." A week later, the horse returned, bringing with it a herd of wild horses. Suddenly, the farmer had not one, but many. The neighbors rejoiced. "How fortunate! What good luck!" The farmer shrugged. "Maybe yes, maybe no. We'll see." Soon after, the farmer's son tried to tame one of the wild horses. He was thrown to the ground and broke his leg. The neighbors gasped. "How terrible! What bad luck!" Again, the farmer said, "Maybe yes, maybe no. We'll see." Not long after, soldiers came to the village, conscripting young men for war. But because the farmer's son had a broken leg, he was left behind. The neighbors sighed with relief. "How fortunate! What good luck!" The farmer only whispered, "Maybe yes, maybe no. We'll see." And so the story goes. Fortune and misfortune dance together, one turning into the other with each shift of the wind. Dear listener, how often do we find ourselves like the neighbors, quick to label our experiences, quick to declare that something is the best thing or the worst thing that could happen? Yet time has a way of revealing that our judgments are often incomplete. What seems like disaster today may open the door to blessings tomorrow. What seems like triumph may carry hidden challenges. Think of your own life for a moment. Have there been times when something you thought was terrible led to unexpected growth? Perhaps the loss of a job opened the door to a new calling. Perhaps an illness brought you closer to those you love. Perhaps a closed door redirected you toward a path you might never have chosen, but which shaped you in profound ways. And have there been times when something you thought was purely wonderful also carried struggles within it? A promotion that brought more stress, a new house that carried unexpected burdens, a dream realized that felt different from what you imagined. This is the farmer's lesson. Do not rush to label. Stay open, stay patient, stay curious. An old American man once told me, "When I broke my leg as a boy, I thought it was the end of the world. But because of that, I stayed home and discovered books. That injury changed my life." His voice was soft, but his eyes glowed with gratitude. He had learned, like the farmer, that we cannot always know in the moment what fortune truly means. So how do we live this wisdom? Begin by noticing the urge to judge quickly. When something goes wrong, pause before declaring it bad. When something goes right, pause before clinging to it as good. Instead, whisper to yourself, "Maybe yes, maybe no. We'll see." These simple words can free your heart from the roller coaster of constant judgment, allowing you to meet life with calm. Close your eyes now if you wish. Imagine yourself as the farmer. Your horse has run away. The neighbors rush to call it misfortune. You breathe deeply and say, "Maybe yes, maybe no. We'll see." Days later, blessings arrive, or challenges return. Still, you breathe. Still, you say, "Maybe yes, maybe no. We'll see." Notice how these words soften the weight of events, how they allow you to rest in uncertainty with peace. This is not indifference, it is not apathy, it is wisdom. To know that life unfolds in ways we cannot always grasp. To trust that what matters most is not labeling, but living, meeting each turn of fortune with balance, with equanimity. I once knew a woman who lost her house in a storm. At first, she wept bitterly, certain her life was ruined. Yet in the process of rebuilding, her community came together, offering help, kindness, and solidarity she had never known. Years later, she said, "The storm took my house, but it gave me a family I didn't know I had." Her words echo the farmer's lesson. Fortune and misfortune are not fixed. They change, they transform, they carry hidden gifts. Dear listener, tonight as you prepare for rest, let yourself release the tight grip of judgment. Think of something in your life you have labeled as bad luck. Ask yourself, might there be another side, unseen for now? Or think of something you cling to as perfect fortune. Ask yourself, what challenges may lie within, waiting to teach you? Take a slow breath. Inhale, uncertainty. Exhale, acceptance. Inhale, mystery. Exhale, trust. Let the rhythm of your breath remind you that life is not fixed in one state. It moves, it changes, it flows like the river we visited last night. As this part of our journey closes, carry the farmer's words with you. Maybe yes, maybe no. We'll see. Let them soften your judgments, quiet your fears, and steady your heart. In our next story, we will step into silence itself, entering a temple where stillness speaks louder than words, and where peace is found not in fortune or misfortune, but in the quiet embrace of presence. But for tonight, rest with the farmer's wisdom. Let fortune and misfortune dance around you while you remain steady, breathing, unshaken. Part 12, The Silent Temple. Last night, we walked through the farmer's fields and listened to his quiet wisdom. Maybe yes, maybe no. We'll see. We discovered that fortune and misfortune are rarely as fixed as we imagine, and that peace comes from patience rather than judgment. Tonight, we step away from the noise of villages and voices into a place older than both luck and chance. Tonight, we enter a temple, but not a temple of stone, incense, or bells. This temple is made of silence itself. Imagine climbing a hillside path as dusk settles. The world grows dim, shadows lengthen, and the hum of the day fades into quiet. Ahead, you see an ancient wooden gate, its paint worn by centuries of wind and rain. Beyond it lies a temple, long abandoned, its walls cracked, its roof sagging, its halls empty. No monks chant here, no candles burn, only silence remains. And yet, as you step inside, something shifts. The air feels different, thicker, deeper, as though holding secrets older than time. Your footsteps echo against the floor, but soon even that sound fades, swallowed by the stillness. You sit upon the cool stones. At first, you hear only your own breathing, your own heartbeat. Then, slowly, you begin to notice what lies beneath, the silence itself, vast and alive, wrapping around you like a cloak. There is an old Zen tale of a wanderer who stumbled upon such a temple. He expected wisdom in words, rituals, or teachings. Instead, he found nothing but quiet. For days he stayed, frustrated, waiting for answers. On the third day, he finally surrendered, sitting in stillness. In that silence, he discovered what no words could give: the peace of being, the truth that needs no explanation. Dear listener, perhaps you have known silence in your own life, not only in abandoned places, but in the pauses between conversations, in the hush of a night without television or phone, in the moments when grief left you speechless. At first, silence can feel heavy, even frightening, because we are so used to filling every gap with noise. Yet within silence lives a temple, a sanctuary where the mind can rest, where the heart can breathe. Think of how much noise surrounds us each day. News buzzing, machines humming, conversations rushing. Even when we sit alone, the noise continues inside. The chatter of thoughts, the replay of worries, the endless rehearsing of what if. To step into silence is to step into a sacred space, rare and healing. An old American man once told me that after his wife passed, he dreaded the silence of the house. Every creak of the floor reminded him of absence. But over time, he came to see the silence not as emptiness, but as presence. It was as if she was there in the quiet, he said softly. The silence became our temple, where I could still feel her love. Silence does not mean nothingness. It means presence without distraction. It is the space where grief can soften, where joy can deepen, where life itself can be heard in its truest rhythm. So, how do we find our own silent temple in daily life? We do not need to seek abandoned monasteries. We can create it here and now. Perhaps it is a few minutes in the morning, before the world wakes, when you sit quietly with your breath. Perhaps it is a walk in the evening without music or phone, listening only to the wind in the trees. Perhaps it is the choice to pause before responding in anger, to let silence speak first. Close your eyes now if you wish. Imagine stepping into that silent temple. No walls, no roof, only the vast space of stillness around you. You sit, and at first the mind clamors, restless. But gradually the silence seeps in. You notice the gentle rhythm of your breath, the faint beating of your heart, the quiet hum of existence itself. The silence is not empty. It is full of peace, of presence, of something larger than words. Zen masters often say that silence is the truest teaching. Words can point the way, but silence is the destination. When you sit in stillness without needing to fix, explain, or control, you step into the temple that has always been with you, the temple of your own quiet heart. I once met a woman who practiced 5 minutes of silence each day. She would sit in her living room, close her eyes, and breathe. At first, she told me, it felt pointless. My mind screamed louder than before. But slowly, I realized the silence was not outside, it was within. Now, those 5 minutes are the holiest part of my day. Her story reminds us that silence is not something we must find. It is something we must allow. It waits beneath every noise, like the earth beneath our feet. Dear listener, as you prepare for rest tonight, I invite you into your own silent temple. Turn down the lights, soften your breath, and let the hush of the night hold you. You do not need words, you do not need answers. You need only the presence of silence itself, steady and eternal. Take a deep breath. Inhale the quiet, as though drawing in the cool air of the temple's halls. Exhale your noise, your thoughts, your clamor. Again, inhale silence. Exhale rest. Notice how the temple grows within you, a sacred place you can enter anytime, anywhere. As this part of our journey closes, remember, silence is not absence, it is presence. It is the temple that lives in every breath, every pause, every moment of stillness. In our next story, we will meet a stone and a feather, two unlikely teachers that show us how the weight of life is not in what we carry, but in how we carry it. But for tonight, rest in your silent temple. Let it hold you, cradle you, and guide you gently into dreams. Part 13. The Stone and the Feather. Last night, we stepped into a silent temple, one without walls or chanting monks, a place built entirely of stillness. We discovered how silence itself can hold us, how it is not emptiness, but presence, deep and nourishing. Tonight, we leave the temple and return to the open road. On that road, we meet two simple objects, a stone and a feather. Though ordinary, they reveal a truth about the burdens we carry, and how weight is often less about the load itself and more about how we hold it. The story begins with two young students walking alongside their teacher. Each of them carried a small bundle for the journey, but their minds were heavy with questions. One of the students bent to the ground and picked up a stone. He held it in his hand, grimacing. "Master," he said, "this stone is heavy. Surely if I carry it, my journey will be harder." The other student laughed and plucked a feather from the roadside. "And this feather is light," he said. "If I carry it, my journey will be easy." The master nodded, saying nothing. As the road stretched on, the student with the stone grew weary. The weight pressed into his hand, his arm ached, his steps slowed. The student with the feather skipped ahead, proud of his clever choice. But then the wind rose. The feather danced, twisting from his grip, carried forward and backward by the breeze. He chased it, stumbling, panting, frustrated. "This feather is too light," he cried. "It will not stay with me." The master stopped and turned to both students. You see, the stone is heavy only because you cling to it. If you placed it in your pack, you could walk with ease. The feather is light, yet you suffer because you grasp too tightly. Both weight and lightness are shaped not by the object, but by the way you carry them. Dear listener, how often do we too make our burdens heavier by the way we hold them? A responsibility becomes crushing not because of its true weight, but because we clutch it in our minds all day and night. A small worry, light as a feather, becomes exhausting when we cannot let it go, when we chase it endlessly in thought. Perhaps you have known this in your own life. A small comment from someone, just a feather, repeated in your mind until it feels like a stone pressing down. Or perhaps a real hardship, a heavy stone indeed, became more bearable when shared, carried wisely, set down when possible. The weight, it seems, is not always in the thing itself, but in the way we carry it. An old American woman once told me, "When my husband passed, people said I was strong because I didn't collapse under grief. But the truth is, I let others hold it with me. I put it in the pack of my community. That is why I could keep walking." Her words echo the Master's. We need not clutch our stones in bare hands. We can place them where they belong, shared, balanced, carried with care. So how do we learn to carry wisely? Begin with noticing your grip. Is there something you are holding too tightly? A fear, a regret, an expectation? Ask yourself, is this stone meant to be held in my hand every moment? Or can I place it down for a while? Can I carry it differently, perhaps by sharing it, by lightening my grasp? And for the feathers, those small worries, those fleeting irritations, notice how much energy you spend chasing them. Perhaps someone did not call you back. Perhaps a stranger frowned at you in passing. These feathers swirl and drift. If we chase every one, our journey grows exhausting. Sometimes the practice is simply to let the feather fly. Close your eyes for a moment if you wish. Picture yourself holding a stone in one hand, a feather in the other. Feel their weight, their difference. Then imagine placing the stone gently into a pack on your back, where it rests securely, no longer straining your arm. Imagine opening your hand and releasing the feather, watching it drift upward, carried by the wind. Notice the lightness in your body as you walk forward, free of strain. This simple image can guide you in daily life. Place down what need not be gripped. Release what need not be chased. Carry wisely. Zen is often called the art of living lightly. Not because life is without burdens, but because we learn to carry them with grace. The stone can become manageable. The feather can be released. And in this way, our journey becomes less about the load and more about the walking. I once heard a man say, "I thought my troubles were heavier than anyone else's. But when I learned to stop clutching them every moment, they became simply part of my pack. I still carry them, but they no longer break me." His eyes glimmered with quiet peace. He had learned the way of the stone and the feather. Dear listener, as you prepare for sleep tonight, think of your own hands. What are you clutching? A stone of responsibility, too tightly held? A feather of worry, chased until you are weary? Imagine placing the stone down gently, releasing the feather gracefully. Breathe deeply and let your hands rest empty. In that emptiness, there is freedom. As this part of our journey closes, remember the Master's words. Weight is not in the object, but in the way we carry it. Let that truth cradle you as you drift into dreams. In our next story, we will find ourselves beside a quiet pond, its surface still as glass, reflecting everything with clarity. There we will discover how the mind, when calm, becomes a mirror that reveals the truth of all things. But for tonight, rest with empty hands. Let the stone be carried wisely. Let the feather be released. And let your heart walk lightly. Part 14, The Mirror Pond. Last night, we walked the road with two students, a stone and a feather. We learned that weight is not always in the thing itself, but in how tightly we hold it. Tonight, we move deeper into stillness, toward a pond hidden in the woods, where water teaches us not about weight, but about clarity. For the mind, like water, reflects best when it is calm. Imagine walking through a quiet forest at dusk. The air is cool, the ground soft with moss, and birds sing their final notes before sleep. Ahead, through the trees, you come upon a pond. Its surface is perfectly still, smooth as polished glass. Leaning closer, you see your reflection, clear, precise, every detail of your face mirrored back at you. The pond does not distort. It does not argue. It simply reflects what is. But then a breeze stirs. Ripples spread across the water, blurring the image. Drop a stone, and the reflection shatters into fragments, trembling and broken. The pond has not lost its power to reflect. It has only lost its stillness. There is an old Zen tale of a master who led his student to such a pond. The student was angry, caught in endless thoughts, unable to find peace. The master picked up a stick and stirred the water violently. "What do you see?" he asked. "Nothing," the student replied. "The water is too disturbed to reflect." The master set the stick aside and waited. Slowly, the ripples faded, the surface calmed. "And now?" "I see myself," the student whispered. The master smiled. "So it is with the mind. When it is restless, you cannot see truth. When it is still, everything is revealed." Dear listener, perhaps you know the feeling of ripples in your own mind, thoughts racing like winds across the pond, emotions stirring like stones thrown suddenly into the water. In those moments, clarity disappears. We cannot see ourselves, nor others clearly. Have you ever spoken words in anger, only to regret them once the mind grew calm? Have you ever made decisions in haste, only to realize later that clarity had been lost to turbulence? These are the ripples of the pond, natural, human, but fleeting if we allow stillness to return. An old American teacher once told his students, "Don't make big decisions when your mind is a storm. Wait for the water to settle." His wisdom echoes the Zen master's. Truth does not vanish. It only waits beneath the surface, revealed when stillness returns. So how do we practice this? Perhaps begin with noticing when the ripples rise. The next time you feel anger, fear, or confusion, pause before reacting. Imagine your mind as a pond, disturbed by the wind. Instead of throwing more stones, wait, breathe. Allow time for the ripples to soften. Clarity will return, as it always does. Close your eyes now if you wish. Picture yourself sitting beside the pond. The water is restless, rippled by thought. Each breath you take smooths the surface. Inhale, ripples slow. Exhale, the water calms. Inhale, stillness grows. Exhale, clarity returns. At last, you see your reflection again, calm, steady, whole. The pond teaches us that we cannot always control the winds or the stones. Life will send them, stirring our waters. But we can choose not to stir further, not to churn our minds with more resistance. Stillness is not the absence of disturbance. It is the return to balance after disturbance. I once knew a woman who carried deep anxiety. She said her mind was always rippling, never still. But through gentle practice, 10 minutes of breathing by her window each morning, she began to notice moments of calm. At first, it was only a glimpse, she said, but slowly the glimpses grew. I realized my mind could be like that pond, restless, yes, but always able to return to stillness. Her story is a reminder that clarity is always possible, not by force, but by patience. Dear listener, as you prepare for rest tonight, think of your own pond. What winds have stirred it today? What stones have been thrown? You need not banish them. Simply allow them to settle. With each breath, picture the ripples fading, the surface smoothing, the reflection returning. Soon, your mind becomes the mirror pond, calm enough to show you truth, that you are whole, that you are safe, that beneath the ripples, peace has always been waiting. Take one deep breath now. Inhale, ripples. Exhale, stillness. Again, inhale, exhale. The pond clears. The reflection shines. The night holds you gently. As this part of our journey closes, remember, the mind, like water, does not lose clarity. It only loses calm, and calm always returns, if we let it. In our next story, we will follow the lantern bearer who walks through the night, teaching us that even when the world is dark, the light within can guide our steps. But for tonight, rest beside the mirror pond. Let its stillness become your own. Let it carry you gently into sleep. Part 15. The Lantern Bearer. Last night, we sat beside the mirror pond and learned that clarity comes when stillness returns, that beneath the ripples of thought, truth is always waiting to be reflected. Tonight, we walk deeper into the night itself, where shadows stretch long and the path seems uncertain. And yet, in this darkness, we meet a figure carrying a lantern, a reminder that light, however small, can guide us safely through. Imagine walking along a narrow path at night. The moon is hidden behind clouds, and the trees crowd close on either side. Every sound seems louder in the dark, the crack of a branch, the rustle of leaves. Fear whispers at the edges of your mind. You cannot see far ahead, and the uncertainty weighs heavily on your chest. And then, from around the bend, a soft glow appears. A lantern swinging gently in the hand of a traveler. The flame is small, no brighter than a single candle, but in the vast darkness it seems radiant. As the bearer approaches, you feel your fear soften. The path ahead is no longer invisible. Each step forward becomes possible. There is an old Zen tale of such a lantern bearer. A young monk once complained to his master, "The world is too dark. Everywhere I look, there is suffering, confusion, and despair. How can I ever find my way?" The master handed him a lantern and said, "You do not need to light the whole world. Carry this. It will be enough for your next step." The monk protested, "But master, one lantern cannot banish the night." The master smiled. "It does not need to. It only needs to show you the way to move forward." Darkness is vast, yes, but it cannot swallow even the smallest light. Dear listener, perhaps you know the feeling of being surrounded by darkness in your own life, times when the future felt unclear, when sorrow clouded your heart, when fear made each step uncertain. In those moments, we long for daylight, for certainty, for every answer at once. But life rarely offers such brilliance. Instead, it offers lanterns, small sources of guidance, moments of kindness, inner sparks of courage. Think of the lanterns in your life. Maybe it was a friend's gentle words during your grief. Maybe it was the resilience you discovered in yourself during illness. Maybe it was simply the rhythm of breath, reminding you that life continues, even in the night. These lanterns may not banish the darkness, but they light enough for one more step. And that is enough. An old American teacher once said, "You don't need to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step." His words echo the Zen master's lesson. The lantern does not reveal the entire journey, but it keeps you moving. And moving, even slowly, is what leads us forward. So, how do we practice being lantern bearers in daily life? First, by carrying our own light. This may be as simple as pausing to breathe, choosing compassion over anger, or holding faith in the face of uncertainty. Second, by offering light to others. Just as the lantern bearer eases the fear of fellow travelers, our small acts of kindness can illuminate paths we cannot see. Close your eyes for a moment if you wish. Imagine yourself holding a lantern. Its glow is soft but steady. Around you, the night stretches vast and endless. You cannot see the horizon, but you can see the ground before your feet. You take a step, and then another. Each step reveals the next. The darkness remains, but it no longer controls you. Now imagine others walking behind you, their faces weary. Your lantern lights their way as well. They do not stumble because of your small flame. You may not know their names, but your light has guided them all the same. This is the power of the lantern. It serves both you and others without needing to be grand or dazzling. I once knew a man who volunteered at a hospital. He was not a doctor nor a nurse. His work was simply to sit with patients who had no family. He would hold their hands in silence. "I cannot cure them," he told me, "but I can be a light in their night." His lantern was not made of wax and flame, but of presence and care. And to those patients, it was enough. Dear listener, as you prepare for sleep tonight, think of the lanterns in your own life. Who has carried light for you when you could not see? And whose path might you illuminate tomorrow, even with the smallest gesture? Take a slow breath now. Inhale as though drawing the lantern's glow into your chest. Exhale as though letting its light spread outward, gently illuminating the room around you. Feel the warmth of that light inside, steady and calm. You are both the traveler and the bearer, both guided and guiding. As this part of our journey closes, remember, darkness is vast, but it cannot extinguish even the smallest light. You need not banish the night. You need only carry a lantern. In our next story, we will drift upon an empty boat, learning the freedom of letting go of pride and blame, and discovering how peace arrives when no one is left to steer. But for tonight, rest with your lantern glowing softly within. Let it guide you into dreams where even in the darkest night, you are never lost. Part 16, The Empty Boat. Last night, we walked beside the lantern bearer, discovering that even the smallest light can guide us through vast darkness, and that carrying light for ourselves also illuminates the path for others. Tonight, we journey to the water once more, where a quiet lesson waits upon the surface of a river. It is a lesson about letting go of the self, of pride and blame, about finding freedom in emptiness. It is the story of the empty boat. Imagine yourself rowing across a river at dawn. The mist hangs low, the water smooth and glassy. Your oars dip gently, pushing you forward. The world feels still, your body moving in rhythm with the water. Then suddenly, thud! Another boat drifts into yours, bumping hard against the side. Anger flares instantly. Who is steering that boat? You demand in your mind. You turn, ready to shout, ready to blame. But when you look closer, you see the truth. The boat is empty. No one is there to blame. No one is there to fight. And just like that, your anger dissolves. This is the parable of the empty boat, told by ancient Zen masters. Its teaching is simple yet profound. When we let go of the idea of someone to blame, our suffering often disappears. Dear listener, how many of our storms are stirred not by what happens, but by whom we believe caused it? A stranger cuts us off in traffic. Our anger rises. A family member speaks harshly. We burn with resentment. We see not only the event, but the self behind it, and we cling to our pride, our sense of being wronged. Yet, what if the boat were empty? What if we could meet events without attaching blame? This is the way of Zen, to see that most of life's collisions are like empty boats. They are not aimed at us. They are simply the drifting of conditions, the flow of causes and effects. The driver who cut you off may be lost in thought. The family member who spoke harshly may be drowning in their own pain. Their words and actions are not about you, though they strike your boat. To meet them as empty boats is to release the anger, to move gently aside, and to keep rowing. I once met an older man who had carried anger toward his brother for decades. A single argument, long ago, had hardened into silence. "He insulted me," the man said. "I will never forgive him." But when he heard the parable of the empty boat, he wept. "All these years," he whispered, "I thought it was about me. But maybe he was only struggling with his own storms." Slowly he softened. He reached out, and though his brother was gone, the man's heart was freed. The empty boat does not deny pain. It does not mean we excuse cruelty or ignore injustice. It means we release the burden of personalizing every collision. We stop turning each bump into an attack on our pride. We learn to meet life with softness, as the river meets the drifting boat. Think of your own life. Where have you clung to blame? Who has bumped against your boat, leaving anger behind? What would it feel like to see them as empty boats, drifting, carried by currents you may never know? Can you let go of the need to fight, to prove, to shout across the river? Close your eyes now if you wish. Picture yourself rowing once more. The water is calm. Another boat drifts into yours. At first, anger rises, but then you look, and it is empty. Your breath slows. The anger dissolves. You smile, push gently away, and continue your journey. The river carries you forward, unburdened. This practice can transform our daily lives. Next time someone speaks harshly, imagine their words as an empty boat, noise carried by currents not aimed at you. Next time life collides with your plans, see it as an empty boat, circumstances drifting, not punishment. In this way, peace replaces conflict, and freedom replaces pride. An old American teacher once said, "We suffer most when we take things personally." His words echo the Zen truth. The boat is often empty. It is we who fill it with blame. Dear listener, as you prepare for rest tonight, think of the collisions you have faced. Can you empty them of blame? Can you release the weight of pride and let the river carry you forward? Breathe in forgiveness. Breathe out anger. Breathe in freedom. Breathe out pride. Let the boats drift by, empty, harmless, dissolving into the mist. As this part of our journey closes, remember, the river is wide, the boats are many, but peace belongs to those who row lightly. The empty boat teaches us that freedom comes not from control, but from letting go of the self that clings to blame. In our next story, we will step into the guest house of the heart, learning how every emotion, joy, sorrow, anger, or love, can be welcomed as a visitor, each with something to teach. But for tonight, rest as though your boat is empty, floating gently downstream, the river carrying you toward dreams of peace. Part 17, The Guest House. Last night, we drifted with the empty boat, and discovered the freedom that comes when we stop clinging to blame, when we let collisions be simply what they are, currents and conditions, not personal attacks. Tonight, we step into another image, one equally ordinary yet deeply transformative. Tonight, we enter the guest house of the heart. Imagine a simple home at the edge of a quiet village. Its door is wide, its windows open. Travelers pass by, some weary, some joyful, some carrying burdens, some bringing laughter. Each knocks, and the door is opened. Inside, there is space for them all, for the tired, for the restless, for the sorrowful, for the radiant. None are turned away, for the house is a place of welcome. So it is with the heart. There is an old teaching. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. Joy comes knocking one day, sorrow the next. Anger arrives uninvited, followed by laughter, followed by fear, followed by love. Each is a guest, each staying for a time, each eventually moving on. The heart's work is not to slam the door, but to receive, to bow, to learn from each visitor. Dear listener, how often do we resist our guests? When sadness knocks, we bar the door, pretending not to hear. When anger enters, we fight, wrestle, push it away. When fear arrives, we hide in the corners, hoping it will vanish. And yet, the guests come anyway. To resist them is to exhaust ourselves. To welcome them is to discover their teachings. An old American woman once told me, "When grief came after my husband died, I tried to ignore it. I kept busy, I smiled for others, I told myself I was fine. But grief stayed anyway, waiting at the door. Only when I finally sat with it, made it tea, listened to its story, did I begin to heal." Her words echo the wisdom of the guest house. Each feeling has a message. Joy teaches us gratitude. Sorrow teaches us depth. Anger reveals where boundaries have been crossed. Fear shows us where we long for safety. Even despair, unwelcome though it is, teaches us humility and the need for connection. The guest house does not mean indulgence. It does not mean letting anger destroy the furniture or fear chain us to the floor. It means acknowledging their presence, learning what they bring, and then allowing them to leave. Close your eyes if you wish. Imagine your heart as a house. The door is open. Today, perhaps sadness arrives, its cloak heavy, its eyes downcast. You bow, invite it in, let it sit at your table. Tomorrow, perhaps laughter bursts through, filling the rooms with light. The next day, loneliness tiptoes in quietly. Each is greeted, each is honored, each eventually departs. The house remains, you remain. This practice is not easy. We prefer some guests and dread others, but peace comes when we realize that the heart is vast enough to hold them all. None of them define us. They are only visitors. I once met a man who battled anger for years. He tried to banish it, to suppress it, but it always returned, fiercer than before. When he learned the guest house teaching, he began to sit with his anger instead. "I ask it why it came," he told me. "Sometimes it shows me where I've been hurt. Sometimes it shows me what I fear. When I listen, it leaves sooner. When I fight it, it stays longer." His story reminds us, emotions are not enemies, they are messengers. To welcome them is to receive their message and let them move on. Dear listener, tonight as you prepare for rest, consider the guests you have hosted today. Who knocked on your door? Was it joy, sadness, worry, or hope? Did you greet them, or did you try to pretend they weren't there? Can you thank them now, even if they were difficult? For each brought something to teach. Take a deep breath. Inhale, opening the door of your heart. Exhale, creating space within. Inhale, welcoming. Exhale, releasing. Let your breath become the rhythm of the guest house, opening and letting go, again and again. As this part of our journey closes, remember, You are not the guests. You are the house. You are the space vast enough to hold joy and sorrow, anger and peace, laughter and grief. The guests will come and go, but you remain, steady, open, whole. In our next story, we will rest beneath an old pine tree, learning from its patient endurance, its roots deep in the earth, its branches reaching calmly toward the sky. But for tonight, may your guest house be gentle, may your visitors be honored, and may your sleep be the quiet space where all guests eventually rest. Part 18. The Old Pine Tree. Last night, we opened the doors of the heart and welcomed its many visitors. We learned that being human is a guest house, where each emotion arrives as a teacher and departs in its time. Tonight, we step outside again, leaving the small rooms of the house and entering the vastness of nature. There, standing tall against sky and wind, we meet the old pine tree. Imagine walking up a hillside just before dawn. The air is crisp, carrying the faint scent of earth and dew. The sky is painted with the first strokes of light, pale blue, hints of gold. Ahead, you see it, a pine tree, towering, ancient, its trunk thick with age, its branches stretching wide as if embracing the heavens. You pause, humbled, for this tree has stood here longer than you have been alive, longer than your parents, perhaps longer than generations before. Its bark is rough, scarred by storms, yet it endures. Its roots sink deep into the soil, anchoring it against winds that would topple lesser growth. Its branches bend under snow in winter, sway in summer storms, but always they rise again. The old pine does not hurry. It does not complain. It simply stands, present, patient, alive. There is an old Zen tale of a monk who sought wisdom beneath such a tree. He asked the master, "What is strength?" The master pointed to the pine. "See how it bends without breaking, how it stands without boasting, how it grows without rushing. That is strength." Dear listener, perhaps you too have longed for such steadiness. In a world where everything changes quickly, news, relationships, health, fortunes, we crave an anchor. The old pine reminds us that strength is not loud or hurried. It is quiet endurance, patient presence, a willingness to stay rooted no matter what storms may come. Think of the storms you have faced in your own life. Illness, loss, disappointments, changes you did not choose. Did you not also bend like the pine? Perhaps you thought you would break, and yet here you are, still standing. The scars upon your bark are proof not of weakness, but of endurance. An old American farmer once told me, "I planted a pine when I was a boy. Now it towers over me. I've seen it battered by hurricanes, covered in ice, struck by lightning, and still it stands. It taught me more about patience than any book I ever read." So how do we practice the way of the pine in our daily lives? First, by growing deep roots. For the pine, roots mean survival. For us, roots are the practices and values that hold us steady. Kindness, honesty, compassion, faith. These are the soil into which we sink. When storms come, our roots keep us grounded. Second, by standing tall but not rigid. The pine does not resist the wind by stiffening. It allows its branches to sway, trusting its roots. So too can we face life scales, not by hardening, but by staying flexible, bending where we must, knowing we will rise again. Third, by accepting time. The pine grows slowly, steadily, year by year. It does not demand to be tall in a single season. It trusts the process. We too can learn patience, trusting that growth is not always visible, but it is happening all the same. Close your eyes if you wish. Imagine yourself sitting at the base of the old pine. Lean your back against its trunk. Feel the strength behind you, steady and unshaken. Above, the branches whisper in the wind, a soft lullaby of resilience. Beneath, the roots spread wide, grounding you, reminding you that you are supported. Take a deep breath. Inhale the strength of the pine. Exhale your restlessness, your fear. Again, inhale roots, steadiness. Exhale worry, doubt. With each breath, you become more like the tree, patient, strong, enduring. I once knew a woman who visited the same tree in her town every day for 30 years. She leaned against it in joy and in sorrow, through marriage, through motherhood, through grief. "The tree outlived my husband," she said softly. "It became my companion. It reminded me that I could endure too." Her story is a reminder. The old pine is not only in forests. It is within us. We each have the capacity to stand steady, to root deeply, to endure the seasons of life with patience. Dear listener, as you prepare for sleep tonight, think of your own inner pine. Where are your roots? What values anchor you? Can you feel yourself swaying with the winds of life, yet still standing tall? Let this image comfort you. You are not fragile. You are not alone. You are like the old pine, scarred, perhaps, but steadfast. As this part of our journey closes, remember, storms will come, seasons will change, but the pine endures. So too can you. In our next story, we will turn from trees to sky, listening to the call of a bird in flight, learning how freedom comes not from escape, but from trusting the open air. But for tonight, rest at the foot of the old pine, its branches sheltering you, its roots holding you, its patience whispering you into dreams. Part 19. The Bird's Flight. Last night, we rested at the foot of the old pine tree. We leaned against its sturdy trunk and listened to its patience, the strength of roots that endure storms, the quiet wisdom of branches that sway but never break. Tonight, we lift our gaze upward, where another teacher waits, not in stillness, but in motion, a bird in flight. Imagine early morning on the edge of a meadow. Mist curls low across the grass, and the sky glows with the first blush of dawn. From the pine branches above, a bird takes off. Its wings spread wide, feathers glistening in the light. It soars into the open sky, graceful, effortless, free. Watching it, something stirs within you, a reminder of the freedom we all long for. There is a Zen tale of a student who envied the birds. "They are free," he said to his master. "They can go anywhere, while I am bound to the ground, weighed down by responsibilities, fears, and duties." The master pointed to the bird above. Yes, it flies, but notice, it does not escape the air. It trusts the air. Its freedom comes not from leaving the world, but from moving with it. You too can be free, not by escaping life, but by trusting it. The student watched as the bird glided, its wings hardly moving. He saw that it was not struggling, not fighting the sky. It was carried, supported, uplifted by the very air he had always thought of as empty. Dear listener, perhaps you have felt weighed down by life, yearning for freedom. You imagine freedom as escape from obligations, from pain, from worry. Yet true freedom may not be escape at all. It may be the courage to spread your wings in the very air that surrounds you now, to trust that life will carry you as surely as the sky carries the bird. Think of your own longings for freedom. Perhaps you wished to escape work, family conflicts, aging, or fear. But when you look closely, has not life always offered currents of air, moments of laughter, breath, love, but hold you aloft? Freedom is not the absence of weight. It is the trust that you can still rise despite it. An old American man once told me, "I thought retirement would set me free. No more schedules, no more bosses. But then I found myself restless, empty." True freedom came when I learned to enjoy the air I was already breathing. His words echo the Master's. Freedom is not waiting in another place or another time. It is here, in this very sky, if we trust it. So how do we practice the way of the bird? First, by opening our wings. This means stepping into the moment with courage, even when fear whispers. Speaking gently when anger tempts us. Taking a breath when worry closes in. The wings are there, but we must choose to spread them. Second, by trusting the air. The bird does not control the currents. It does not demand certainty. It leans into the flow, adjusting, gliding, sometimes flapping, sometimes resting. We too can trust the unseen support of life, our breath, our resilience, the kindness of others, the quiet rhythm of the world. Third, by remembering that the sky is vast. Problems, fears, and doubts may feel overwhelming, but they are like small clouds in a boundless sky. The bird does not fear the clouds. It simply flies through or around them, knowing the sky remains. Close your eyes if you wish. Imagine yourself as a bird perched on the branch of the old pine. The wind stirs. You open your wings. At first, fear rises. What if you fall? But then you leap, and the air holds you. You glide, supported. The fields below pass gently. The sky stretches endlessly. You are not escaping life. You are moving with it. You are free. I once knew a woman who feared aging, believing her freedom would vanish with her youth. But as years passed, she found new freedom in slowness, in wisdom, in savoring what once rushed by. "My body cannot run as it did," she said, "but my spirit soars. I have learned to fly differently, but I still fly." Her story is a reminder. Freedom is not bound to age, wealth, or circumstance. It is bound to trust. Dear listener, as you prepare for rest tonight, think of the wings you carry, perhaps invisible, but real. What would it feel like to open them, to let life's air hold you, to rise lightly above your fears? You do not need to escape your life. You need only to trust the sky of your own being. Take a deep breath. Inhale the vastness of the sky. Exhale the heaviness of the ground. Inhale freedom. Exhale fear. Let each breath become a wing beat, carrying you higher into the quiet night. As this part of our journey closes, remember, the bird's flight is not an escape, but a trust. And you too can trust the air that holds you, the life that carries you, the sky that never ends. In our next story, we will sit beside a potter's wheel, watching clay take shape beneath steady hands, learning how life too molds us through pressure and turning. But for tonight, let your wings rest. Let the air cradle you. Let your dreams carry you higher, free in the sky of sleep. Part 20. The Potter's Wheel. Last night, we rose into the sky with the bird in flight. We discovered that freedom is not found in escape, but in trust, in opening our wings and allowing life's air to carry us. Tonight, we return to the earth, to the quiet workshop of a potter, where another lesson waits. It is about shaping, pressure, patience, and the beauty that emerges from being molded. Imagine stepping into a dim room scented with clay and earth. The potter sits at a wheel, a simple wooden tool that spins steadily, humming softly. Upon the wheel rests a lump of wet clay, shapeless, unformed. The potter's hands press gently, firmly, guiding, shaping. Slowly, the clay begins to rise, to curve, to transform. What was once formless begins to take the shape of a bowl, a vessel, a work of quiet beauty. There is an old Zen tale of a student who watched a potter at work. "Why must you press the clay so firmly?" he asked. "Why not let it find its own form?" The potter smiled. "The clay does not resist me. It yields, it trusts, and in that trust, beauty is born. Without pressure, it would collapse. Without the turning, it would remain shapeless. The wheel and my hands do not harm it. They give it form." The student sat silently, realizing that life, too, is a potter's wheel. Dear listener, perhaps you have felt the pressure of life's hands upon you. Responsibilities, hardships, changes you did not choose. At times, it may feel as if you are being pressed, stretched, spun endlessly without rest. And yet, consider, might this very pressure be shaping you? Might life itself be molding you into a vessel strong enough to hold wisdom, compassion, and love? Think of the challenges you have faced. Illness that forced you to discover patience. Loss that deepened your empathy. Struggles that carved strength into your spirit. These were the potter's hands, shaping you, not punishing, but forming. An old American woman once told me, "I used to curse my hardships. I thought they were breaking me. But now, looking back, I see they made me who I am. Without them, I would still be a lump of clay. With them, I became a vessel." Her words echo the wisdom of the potter's wheel. The spin, the pressure, the molding are not to be feared. They are the process by which beauty is created. So, how do we live this truth? First, by trusting the process. The clay does not know what shape it will take. It only yields to the hands that guide it. In the same way, we may not always understand why hardships come, but we can trust that they are shaping us into something meaningful. Second, by remaining centered. The clay holds steady at the center of the wheel. If it drifts off balance, it collapses. Our center is found in breath, in presence, in values that root us. When life spins us quickly, we return to center, steadying ourselves in stillness. Third, by accepting imperfection. Not every pot is symmetrical. Not every vessel is flawless. Yet each carries its own beauty. We too need not be perfect to be whole. Our cracks, as we learned before, can be filled with gold. Our irregularities can be part of our charm. Close your eyes now if you wish. Imagine yourself as clay upon the wheel. Feel the spin of life beneath you, the gentle yet firm hands shaping your form. At first, you resist, fearful of the pressure. But then you yield, softening, trusting. Slowly you rise, curving gracefully, becoming a vessel capable of holding water, of holding light, of holding love. This image can carry you through difficult times. When life presses too hard, remind yourself you are being shaped, not shattered. When the spin feels dizzying, return to your center. When you doubt your worth, remember, even imperfect vessels carry nourishment. I once knew a man who worked with clay after his retirement. He said, "Every pot I make is different. Some lean, some crack, some wobble, but all can hold something, a flower, a candle, a memory. People are the same." His laughter was soft, but his wisdom clear. Dear listener, as you prepare for rest tonight, think of the wheel upon which your life turns. The hands that shape you may feel heavy, but they are guiding you into form. You are not formless. You are becoming. And in that becoming lies beauty. Take a deep breath. Inhale the spin of the wheel. Exhale the trust of the clay. Inhale pressure. Exhale yielding. Let your breath shape you gently, molding you into rest. As this part of our journey closes, remember, you are the vessel of your life, shaped by time, by pressure, by love. And even now, as you lie down to sleep, the wheel turns softly, carrying you toward greater wholeness. In our next story, we will walk into a marketplace where noise and chaos swirl, and yet a Zen master shows us how peace can be found even in the busiest places. But for tonight, rest as clay upon the wheel, shaped gently, patiently, beautifully. Part 21. The Marketplace. Last night, we sat at the potter's wheel and discovered how life shapes us with pressure and turning, how hardships mold us into vessels capable of holding love, light, and wisdom. Tonight, we leave the quiet workshop and step into a place of noise and chaos, the village marketplace. Here, among the crowds and clamor, we learn a new lesson, that peace is not only found in silence and solitude. It can also bloom in the busiest places if we know how to return to ourselves. Imagine entering the market at midday. The sun beats down, warm and bright. Stalls line the streets. Heaps of fruit glowing in baskets. Fabrics in bright colors fluttering in the breeze. Spices releasing sharp scents into the air. Voices rise all around. Merchants calling, children laughing, neighbors haggling. Donkeys bray, chickens scatter, carts rumble over stones. It is a swirl of life, vivid and loud. For many, the marketplace is overwhelming. Thoughts scatter, patience wears thin, the mind grows restless. But in the midst of this clamor, a Zen master once walked with a student. The student tugged at his sleeve. "Master," he said, "how can I find peace here? The noise is unbearable. The crowd is too much. My mind cannot settle." The master smiled and paused before a fruit stall. He picked up a peach, held it in his hand, and breathed. "Peace is not in the silence of the market," he said softly. "Peace is in the silence within. The marketplace will never quiet itself for you, but you can carry your own stillness, like a lamp, into the crowd." The student frowned. "But how?" The master handed him the peach. "Taste this," he said. The student bit into the fruit. Juice dripped down his chin, sweet and cool. For a moment the noise faded. All he felt was the taste, the texture, the gift of the peach itself. The master whispered, "That is peace, to be fully here, even in the marketplace." Dear listener, perhaps you know this struggle. Perhaps you too have felt your calm slip away in the busyness of daily life, traffic roaring, phones ringing, responsibilities calling your name. It feels as if peace belongs only to mountains and temples, not to kitchens, offices, or crowded streets. Yet the Zen teaching is clear. Peace is not about the absence of noise. It is about presence within the noise. Think of the moments when you lost your temper, not because of what happened, but because the noise of your mind grew too loud. And think also of the moments when, even in chaos, you found calm, listening to a single song, savoring a sip of tea, pausing to breathe. The marketplace did not change. You did. An old American man once told me, I used to think I had to escape the city to find peace, but then I realized I could find it on the subway if I just closed my eyes and listened to my breath. Peace isn't out there, it's in here." He tapped his chest and smiled. So how do we practice this? First, by choosing anchors. In the marketplace of life, the mind is easily swept away. An anchor, your breath, the feeling of your feet on the ground, the taste of food in your mouth, keeps you steady. Second, by embracing presence. When you eat, eat. When you walk, walk. When you listen, listen. Do not try to live 3 moments at once. Choose the one before you and let it be enough. Third, by releasing judgment. The noise is not your enemy. The crowd is not your obstacle. They are simply life, vibrant and alive. The market does not need to be silent for you to be at peace. Close your eyes if you wish. Imagine yourself standing in the middle of the marketplace. Voices rise, carts roll, bells ring. But you place a hand on your chest and breathe. Inhale, the noise flows in. Exhale, it flows out. Inhale, you are present. Exhale, you are calm. Slowly, the noise becomes part of the rhythm, not a disruption. You stand like a tree in the middle of the square, steady while life swirls around. This practice can transform even the busiest day. In the kitchen, with pots clattering, pause and breathe. At work, with voices overlapping, pause and taste a sip of water. In traffic, with horns blaring, pause and feel your hands on the wheel. These are your peaches in the marketplace. Small moments of presence, sweet and grounding. I once knew a mother of 3 who said, "My house is chaos, children running, dishes clattering, toys everywhere. But I've learned to find peace by folding laundry. I feel the fabric, I breathe, I let that be my meditation. The chaos doesn't vanish, but I am calm in it." Her words echo the Zen master's lesson: peace carried within cannot be stolen by noise. Dear listener, as you prepare for rest tonight, reflect on your own marketplace. Where is your life most noisy, most chaotic? Can you imagine carrying a small lantern of stillness there, illuminating even the busiest space with calm? You do not need to escape your life. You need only to return to yourself. Take a deep breath now. Inhale, the marketplace of the day. Exhale, the stillness of night. Inhale, the voices, the noise. Exhale, the calm within. Let your breath remind you, peace is not found in silence outside, but in silence inside. As this part of our journey closes, remember, the marketplace will always be loud, but you can always taste the peach. You can always find one sweet, simple moment of presence. In our next story, we will sit at a bridge where 2 travelers meet, learning how connection and kindness can turn even brief encounters into lifelong teachings. But for tonight, rest as if you are in your own marketplace, lantern in hand, peach in mouth, peace within your breath. Part 22, The Bridge of Encounters. Last night, we wandered through the marketplace, where noise and chaos surrounded us. We discovered that peace is not the absence of sound, but the presence of awareness. That even in the busiest square, we can taste the sweetness of a peach and find stillness in the heart. Tonight, we leave the crowded stalls and walk toward a quieter place, a bridge stretched across a flowing river. Here, we will learn how the simple encounters of life, sometimes fleeting, sometimes lasting, can become bridges themselves, connecting us to wisdom, kindness, and one another. Imagine walking across a wooden bridge at sunset. The planks creak beneath your feet, the river rushes gently below, and the sky glows with warm hues of orange and pink. On one side, you see your own village, familiar and known. On the other side lies the unknown. New paths, new faces, new lessons. The bridge is the in-between, the meeting place of past and future, self and other. There is an old Zen tale of two travelers who met upon such a bridge. One was young, carrying dreams and questions. The other was old, carrying years and silence. They paused, nodded to each other, and exchanged only a few words. Then they parted, never to meet again. But each carried something lasting from that brief encounter. The young traveler learned patience from the old man's stillness. The elder felt hope from the youth's bright eyes. The bridge became their teacher, showing that even short meetings can leave footprints on the heart. Dear listener, perhaps you too have known such bridges. A stranger's smile that lifted your spirits on a weary day. A brief conversation that opened a door in your mind. A kind gesture that remained with you long after the moment passed. Not all teachers wear robes, not all guides stay for years. Sometimes wisdom arrives like a traveler on a bridge, pausing only long enough to leave a gift. An old American woman once told me, "When I was young, a man held the door for me and said, 'Take your time, the world isn't rushing you.' That sentence stayed with me for 50 years. I never saw him again, but I still hear his voice whenever I rush." Her story reminds us that bridges are everywhere, in airports, in grocery stores, in waiting rooms, in sidewalks. Each encounter is a chance for connection, however brief. So how do we live this truth? First, by being present on the bridge. When you meet another, whether stranger, friend, or family, do not rush across. Pause, look into their eyes. Be fully there, as if this moment matters, because it does. Second, by carrying kindness. You may never know what your words or gestures will mean. A smile, a listening ear, a gentle touch may become a bridge for someone standing in darkness. Third, by receiving as well as giving. Too often, we dismiss the small gifts others offer us. A compliment, a word of encouragement, a story shared in passing. Let these touch you. Let them become part of the bridges that shape your life. Close your eyes now, if you wish. Imagine standing on a bridge. The river flows beneath, steady and calm. Another traveler approaches. They may be young or old, joyful or sorrowful. You exchange a smile, perhaps a word. Then they move on. The encounter is brief, but it lingers. The bridge does not belong to either of you. It belongs to the meeting. This image can guide you in daily life. Next time you find yourself in a chance encounter, a cashier handing you change, a neighbor greeting you, a child asking a question, see it as a bridge. You do not know what gift may pass between you. Be present, be kind. Let the bridge fulfill its purpose. I once knew a man who volunteered at a train station, simply offering directions to travelers. "Most forget me," he said, "but some remember. And even if they don't, the bridge was built. For a moment, we were connected." His words remind us that encounters need not last forever to be meaningful. A single crossing can change us. Dear listener, as you prepare for sleep tonight, think of the bridges you have crossed today. Who did you meet, however briefly? What words, gestures, or glances did you exchange? What bridges will tomorrow offer? Each one is an opportunity to carry peace, to receive wisdom, to connect in the flow of life. Take a slow breath. Inhale the presence of others. Exhale the gift of connection. Inhale the meeting. Exhale the letting go. Let your breath become the bridge, carrying you gently across the night into dreams. As this part of our journey closes, remember, Life is not only lived on one shore or the other. It is lived on the bridges, in the moments of meeting, in the connections that weave us together. In our next story, we will step into a garden where seasons change, teaching us how impermanence itself is a form of beauty. But for tonight, rest upon the bridge. Let its wooden planks hold you. Let its gentle crossings become your lullaby. And may your sleep be a journey across waters of peace. Part 23, The Garden of Seasons. Last night, we paused upon a bridge and learned that even brief encounters can shape us, that connections, however fleeting, become bridges across the river of life. Tonight, we step into a quieter, more intimate place, a garden, where the seasons themselves are teachers, reminding us that impermanence is not a curse but a blessing, and that change is the essence of beauty. Imagine walking through a wooden gate into a garden just as dawn breaks. The path beneath your feet is lined with stones, cool with dew. Birds are beginning their morning songs. Ahead, the garden stretches wide, trees, flowers, ponds, all shaped by time. You pause, and as you walk further, you notice something remarkable. Each corner of the garden seems to hold a different season. To your left, spring is alive. Cherry blossoms drift gently through the air, their fragrance sweet and fleeting. Buds burst open with promise. Green shoots stretch toward the light. The air hums with beginnings. You feel in your chest the freshness of new hope, the innocence of life awakening. Ahead, summer waits. The trees are heavy with fruit, the air warm and thick with the scent of earth. Bees buzz, dragonflies dart. The pond reflects a golden sky. This is the season of fullness, of energy, of abundance. You feel in your heart the vigor of being alive, the richness of days that seem endless. Further on, autumn arrives. Leaves burn gold, red, and amber, falling like whispers to the ground. The air is crisp, carrying the scent of harvest and wood smoke. This is the season of letting go, of gathering what has ripened, of gratitude for what has been. You feel in your spirit the wisdom of release, the beauty of impermanence. Finally, winter greets you. The trees stand bare, the earth rests beneath a quilt of snow. The air is sharp and pure, silence reigns. This is the season of rest, of stillness, of endings that are also beginnings. You feel in your bones the deep peace of surrender, the quiet preparation for renewal. The garden shows you what Zen masters have long taught. Everything changes. Nothing stays forever, neither joy nor sorrow, neither youth nor age, neither gain nor loss. And yet in that change lies the very heart of life. Spring becomes summer, summer fades to autumn, autumn yields to winter, and winter returns to spring. Impermanence is not destruction, it is the rhythm that allows life to sing. Dear listener, perhaps you have struggled with change. Perhaps you have mourned the passing of time, the loss of youth, the fading of loved ones, the ending of chapters. It is natural to grieve, but the garden reminds us, endings are also beginnings. The cherry blossom falls not to vanish, but to feed the soil where another will bloom. The leaf drifts not to die, but to nourish the roots below. Even winter, stark and cold, carries within it the seed of spring. An old American gardener once told me, "I used to dread autumn. The falling leaves felt like loss. But now I see the beauty. The tree lets go, not in despair, but in trust. It knows spring will return." His words echo the wisdom of the seasons. To let go is not to end, but to prepare for what comes next. So how do we live with the seasons of our own lives? First, by honoring each one. Youth is spring, full of beginnings. Adulthood is summer, busy and abundant. Midlife is autumn, a time of gathering and letting go. Old age is winter, a time of rest and reflection. None is better than another. Each holds its beauty. Second, by embracing impermanence. Instead of clinging to summer or resisting winter, we learn to welcome each season as it comes. When joy arrives, we savor it. When sorrow comes, we honor it. When endings appear, we trust they carry new beginnings. Third, by noticing the small details. The garden is not only grand scenes, but tiny miracles. A dewdrop on a leaf, a bird song, a snowflake melting in your hand. These remind us that even as seasons change, each moment holds wonder. Close your eyes now if you wish. Imagine walking slowly through the garden. Feel spring's blossoms brush your face. Taste summer's fruit upon your tongue. Hear autumn's leaves crunch beneath your feet. Breathe winter's pure air. Each season embraces you, and you embrace it in return. The garden is your life. Its beauty lies in its changes. I once knew a woman in her 80s who said, "When I was young, I feared growing old. But now I see my life as a garden. My spring was sweet, my summer full, my autumn rich. And now in winter I rest. Each season has been beautiful. Each season has been mine." Her story is a lantern for us all, showing that impermanence need not be feared. It is the very thing that makes life precious. Dear listener, as you prepare for rest tonight, think of the garden within you. What season are you in now? What beauty does it hold? Can you honor it, savor it, trust it? Let the rhythm of change soothe you, reminding you that nothing is lost, only transformed. Take a slow breath. Inhale spring's promise. Exhale summer's fullness. Inhale autumn's release. Exhale winter's rest. Let your breath become the turning of the seasons, steady and eternal. As this part of our journey closes, remember, impermanence is not the end of beauty, it is the source of beauty. The falling leaf, the melting snow, the fading blossom, each is a note in the symphony of life. In our next story, we will walk into a hermit's hut, learning how simplicity can become wealth, and how less can truly mean more. But for tonight, rest in the Garden of Seasons. Let its blossoms, fruits, leaves, and snow cradle you into dreams. Part 24. The Hermit's Hut. Last night, we wandered through the Garden of Seasons and learned that impermanence itself is beauty, that change gives life its rhythm and its meaning. Tonight, we step deeper into the hills, away from gardens and villages, until we reach a small clearing where smoke rises gently from a chimney. There stands a hut, weathered and humble, home to a hermit who has chosen simplicity over abundance, silence over noise, and stillness over busyness. From this hut, we learn the quiet wealth of simplicity. Imagine a one-room hut, built from rough wood, its roof patched with straw. Inside, there is little: a low table, a straw mat, a clay cup, a single candle. The hermit sits cross-legged, stirring a pot of rice over a small fire. Outside, the wind rustles the trees. A bird sings, then grows silent. The hut is poor by every worldly measure, yet in the hermit's eyes there is no lack, only peace. There is an old Zen tale of a monk who lived in such a hut. One evening, a thief broke in, searching for valuables. The monk laughed gently and said, "You have come a long way to visit me, and you find nothing here to steal. Let me at least give you the gift of the moon." He pointed through the window at the bright full moon rising above the hills. The thief, puzzled, fled. But the monk sat, smiling, bathed in silver light. He had nothing, and yet he was rich. Dear listener, perhaps you too have felt the weight of possessions, of responsibilities tied to things. We are told that wealth is in accumulation. More clothes, more devices, more security. And yet so often, the more we gather, the heavier we feel. The hermit's hut reminds us that less can be more, that simplicity itself can be abundance. Think of a time when you felt most at peace. Was it surrounded by many things, or was it in a moment of simplicity? A quiet morning with a cup of tea, a walk with nothing but your breath, a night under the stars with no roof but the sky. Peace, it seems, often arrives not with more, but with less. An old American man once told me, "After my children moved out, I sold half my things. I thought I'd feel empty, but I felt light. I had space to breathe again." His words echo the hermit's wisdom. Freedom comes when we no longer cling to what we do not need. So how do we practice the wealth of simplicity? First, by noticing what is enough. When you eat, do you need abundance, or can one simple meal satisfy? When you live, do you need endless possessions, or can one room, one bed, one lamp bring comfort? Second, by letting go of excess. The hermit's hut is not bare for the sake of deprivation. It is bare because every object there serves a purpose. We too can ask, what in my life is essential and what is only clutter? Third, by savoring presence. The hermit does not own jewels, yet he treasures the moonlight. He does not have riches, yet he delights in the sound of wind in the trees. We too can find wealth in what cannot be bought. Close your eyes now if you wish. Imagine yourself stepping into the hermit's hut. Sit on the straw mat. Feel the warmth of the fire. Taste the simplicity of rice in a clay bowl. Look out the window at the moon hanging full above the hills. Notice how your breath slows, how the weight of busyness drops from your shoulders. In this hut, you are free. This image can guide you in daily life. The next time you feel overwhelmed by clutter, whether objects in your home or thoughts in your mind, imagine the hut. What can you release? What is truly enough? I once knew a woman who practiced a ritual she called emptying the bowl. Each week, she gave away something she no longer needed, an old coat, a book, a dish. Every time I let go, she said, I feel lighter. My hut becomes emptier, but my heart becomes fuller. Her story reminds us that simplicity is not loss, it is gain. It is the clearing of space so that life itself can breathe. Dear listener, as you prepare for rest tonight, imagine your own hut. What fills it? What could be released? What quiet wealth is already there, unnoticed? Perhaps the sound of your own breath, steady and alive. Perhaps the presence of those you love, even if far away. Perhaps the vast gift of the night sky, always waiting beyond your window. Take a deep breath. Inhale the peace of simplicity. Exhale the weight of excess. Inhale the richness of enough. Exhale the grasping for more. Let your breath clear space within you, leaving only what matters. As this part of our journey closes, remember, the hermit's hut is not poverty, it is freedom. It is the wealth of a heart that knows enough, that treasures what cannot be stolen, that delights in the gift of the moon. In our next story, we will follow a bamboo flute, learning how emptiness itself can create the sweetest music. But for tonight, rest in the hermit's hut. Let its quiet simplicity cradle you. Let the fire warm you. Let the moonlight guide you gently into dreams. Part 25, The Bamboo Flute. Last night, we sat in the hermit's hut and discovered the quiet wealth of simplicity, that having less can mean being more, that peace often comes not from abundance, but from knowing what is enough. Tonight, we step back into the forest, where a final lesson awaits in the hands of a wandering monk carrying nothing but a bamboo flute. From this flute, we learn that emptiness is not a lack, but the very space through which music and life can sing. Imagine a length of bamboo, cut and hollowed by steady hands. At first glance, it seems ordinary, just a piece of grass, light and fragile. But when shaped, when given holes and breath, it becomes something greater. It becomes a flute. Its gift does not come from what it holds, but from what it lacks. Its emptiness is its power. There is an old Zen tale of a monk who wandered from village to village carrying only a bamboo flute. He had no money, no possessions, no fame. Yet wherever he went, people gathered to hear his music. When asked why he chose the flute, he said, "Because it teaches me that emptiness is not nothing. It is the space where sound is born, the opening through which spirit flows." He lifted the flute to his lips, and a soft melody drifted into the night. Simple, haunting, serene. The villagers wept, not because the music was grand, but because it was true. Dear listener, perhaps you too have feared emptiness in your own life. The empty room after a loved one has gone. The empty hours when work or purpose has ended. The empty silence that follows loss. We are taught to dread emptiness, to fill it quickly with noise, with things, with distractions. Yet the bamboo flute reminds us, emptiness can also sing. Think of the times when silence brought you healing. A pause in a conversation that revealed what words could not. A moment of stillness after grief when your heart, though aching, finally breathed. An empty space in your schedule where rest quietly bloomed. These are the flutes of life, hollow places that make music possible. An old American man once told me, "When my children left home, the house felt too empty. I thought I'd lost everything." But slowly, I realized that emptiness was giving me space to paint, to walk, to dream again. The house was not silent. It was singing a new song. So how do we live the way of the bamboo flute? First, by embracing emptiness. Instead of fearing the hollow spaces in our lives, we can see them as openings for new melodies. Second, by breathing into them. The flute does not play itself. It needs breath. Our emptiness becomes alive when we bring awareness, kindness, and presence into it. Third, by sharing the song. The flute's music is not for itself alone. It drifts outward, touching others. Our own emptiness, when embraced, can become compassion, empathy, art, or love that we share. Close your eyes now if you wish. Imagine holding a bamboo flute. Feel its smoothness beneath your fingers, its lightness in your hands. Place it to your lips and breathe. At first, only silence. Then, slowly, a note, soft, clear, tender. The sound rises, floats into the night, touching the trees, the stars, the river below. Notice that the sound is not separate from the emptiness. It is born because of it. This image can guide you in daily life. The next time you feel hollow, lonely, or lost, imagine yourself as the bamboo flute. Let breath, presence, or love flow through you. Let your emptiness sing. I once knew a woman who said, After my husband died, I thought I was broken, hollow inside. But then I began to volunteer at a hospice. My emptiness became space for others. My grief became a song of comfort. Her words echo the flute's truth. Emptiness can become music for the world. Dear listener, as you prepare for rest tonight, reflect on the empty spaces within you. What songs might they hold? What melodies might flow if you allow breath, awareness, and kindness to move through them? Take a deep breath. Inhale, filling the flute. Exhale, releasing the song. Inhale, emptiness. Exhale, music. Let your breath become the melody that carries you gently towards sleep. As this final part of our journey closes, remember, the bamboo flute is not less because it is empty. It is more. Its hollow core is what allows it to sing. So too with you. Your emptiness is not your weakness. It is your gift. Dear listener, our journey together has carried us across many landscapes, rivers and mountains, gardens and temples, bridges and markets. We have walked with monks, farmers, travelers, and hermits. We have sat beneath pine trees, rowed empty boats, tasted peaches, listened to bamboo flutes. Each story was a lantern, a reflection, a whisper of ancient wisdom carried gently into your night. And now, after 25 nights of wandering, we arrive here, together at the quiet edge of the path. This is not an ending, but a resting place. For the teachings of Zen are not closed within these stories. They are alive in every breath you take, every step you walk, every silence you enter. Perhaps, as you listened, you felt a softening. Perhaps you remembered your own cracked pots that watered flowers, your own lanterns that lit the dark, your own gardens of changing seasons. If so, then the stories are no longer just words. They are seeds planted in your heart, ready to bloom in their own time. Remember, dear one, that peace is never far. It is in the still pond of your mind when the ripples settle. It is in the breath you carry everywhere you go. It is in the quiet truth that you are already enough, whole, worthy, luminous, even as you rest here tonight. So let this moment be your closing bow, your gentle release. Inhale and feel the presence of all you have gathered. Exhale and let go of what no longer serves you. Trust that the path continues, that tomorrow will bring new bridges, new lanterns, new songs. Thank you for walking with me through this long night of stories. May you find rest in their embrace, courage in their wisdom, and comfort in knowing you are never alone on the path. Now close your eyes. Let the words fade. Let the silence hold you. Let sleep come, like a kind guest at your door. And when you awaken, may your heart carry the calm of Zen into the new day.